Good afternoon, everyone. Hello and welcome to the Pylon Show number 138, where we are going to have a great time talking about basically esports again. A lot of esports because that's all we've been really doing. But we'll talk about life and some other stuff too. It's just going to be a good time. I am joined by not one or two, but three lovely individuals today. And I'm going to kick things off with my absolute favorite zombie grubby in the whole wide world, because he's also the only zombie grubby I know. Hello, Jess. Thank you so much for waking up early and doing this. How are you doing today?
Good. It's actually not too early for me. 11 a.m. is pretty nice, actually. I'd actually woken up to get my car get all fixed and state inspections and stuff. So I'm actually pretty good because, it wasn't one of those headaches like usual. It went really fast and it was pretty cheap. So A+ morning.
A+ morning, and we're going to make it an A++ morning by the time we are done saving esports today. Speaking of saving esports, and a man for who it is actually very early, Nathanias. Nate, I read Reddit. Where did he go? I didn't see him at DreamHack. Or actually, no, I did see him at DreamHack. Damn it. How are you
That's
doing,
what the thread
mate?
said, though.
I forget, and that's been my favorite question. I'm like, I've still been doing most of the tournaments, guys. I'm good. It is nice and early. I woke up about 15 minutes ago. Took the fastest shower I've ever taken, and I'm here. I've got my coffee. I'm excited to talk about e-gaming and e-gaming paraphernalia.
When you mentioned coffee, I just had a little sense of sadness because then I think back of the days that we were in Burbank together, getting a coffee at Starbucks at 4 a.m. before we would head into the Challenger studio. Those were the
Well,
days.
we live right next to that 7-Eleven. I could run over and make the Red Bull runs between the matches.
Yeah. Good times, good times. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm sure we're going to have a great time. And last but not least, and I'm actually really happy that you were available to join us today because last week with Kev, I spoke a little bit about the Korean scene and I kind of said, like, it just feels a bit quiet. But I know that I'm looking at someone who has done his best to still create some really cool content. For the people who are not familiar with ZGGaming or Gemini, as we like to call him, a English teacher right now in Korea, but a passionate diehard StarCraft fan, first hero, then trap, and taking some time out of his evening, or it's for you very late, I assume. So thank you for joining
Yeah,
us
it's
tonight,
midnight.
mate. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. Thanks for having me on for this one. It's kind of last minute, but I figured I'd jump on because there's nothing I love more than just talking about StarCraft at midnight into the wee hours. This is my peak time anyway, so why not? But yeah, it's cool to be back on again. Bring in some, talk about whatever you guys want to talk about. I'll do it all.
Yep. Well, we're definitely going to talk a little bit about Korean StarCraft because, of course, we had the GSL this week kicking up, but we'll talk more about that later. First up, some of you guys may be wondering, what's the topic today? Well, I'll let you guys know. There is no topic. We're just going to have a good time together. We're going to cover esports, and then we'll definitely talk about a couple of things that I have on my mind, but I think it's a little bit weird to always have like a forced topic. Because obviously StarCraft has changed a lot over the years. We don't have a weekly community update anymore. We don't have new co-op missions, commanders, all that kind of stuff, watches. So there is a little bit less of a, this is our topic of the week. If a new map pool comes around, we'll definitely talk about that and all that kind of jazz. But for now, we just wrapped up the DreamHack Masters. It is an incredibly long tournament. Most of us need a little break. Some of you guys even need a little break afterwards. But we're definitely going to talk about things. We'll look forward to the season finals. And we'll take it from there. But first off, as per tradition, let's go over the European Pro Tour Weekly, the American Pro Tour Weekly, and the Korean Pro Tour Weekly real quick, because that is the way that I like to kick off the show. For the people who don't know, every Monday night, well, Korea, it's Saturday, I believe, because they have the GSL.
Sunday, but yeah.
Sunday, yeah. Same. Do you cast that, actually?
Yeah, I do actually. Well, last couple of times I wasn't because unlike Zombie Grub over here, waking up before 12 p.m. is not my forte. But I did finally wake up again a couple of days ago, so I did it this week. But yeah, I played it and then casted it each time that again.
You're not alone, mate. I cannot remember the last time I woke up before 12. And now I have the Muslim guilt tripping me today. He's like, I always host my good friend RotterdaM. He never hosts me. It's like, yeah, because you go offline at 2 p.m., mate. How the hell am I ever going to host you? Anyway, this is an $800 online tournament. It used to be a bit smaller, but then obviously Shopify came on board, and I love talking about these cups. They are really fun. I think especially the European one is the big one, but all three of them are quite cool, and especially the American Weekly. And I know Zombie Grub that you were casting this. together with Piggy. So my first question, before we talk about the players and the results, is you've been co-casting some of these cups, right? How did this start, and are you having fun with it?
Yeah, I've been co-casting a little bit. Steadfast has jumped on for almost the entirety of last week. So we co-cast together, we're both streaming as well. But then we did the finals of the European one together, and then I asked Pig if he wanted to do it with America, because he used to do it all the time with Maynard, and then Maynard stopped doing it. So he was pretty excited to do that. I kind of started just because I find that the solo casting actually really wears out my voice for whatever reason. Just being on like a personal stream, I think makes me a lot lazier. So I'm like coming like from my throat more. So I was actually like, okay, if I want to do double days, because I want to like stream a lot for this month, because I'm pretty much not going to do any next month, then I got to get a co-caster. And honestly, like it really is the better experience for like viewers. I actually struggle to think of any time where I've been like, I prefer the solo cast. A couple times, but overall having a co-caster is a better relief. I think it just sucks when you have to like try and like organize and schedule, but if both of you are in the mood and you're just like, yeah, okay, let's jump on, then that's very easy to do.
Have you tried a cheeky whiskey during the Monday nights or the Tuesday mornings? That can help with the voice.
I haven't done the night one. I haven't done NA in a long time, so I've not really had whiskey at like 5 p.m. But I maybe during some of the worst times of COVID last year, maybe I had a couple of beers, but I don't think it really helps my voice.
I just want to say I wouldn't judge it. Anyway, we'll talk about the results real quick. We've got them on the screen right now. Safe to say a very, very impressive run by Trigger. Our Canadian Protos, we obviously all saw him in the DreamHack Masters last season, made it into the playoffs. We thought it was kind of cool. This season fell short by one map. It was M. Canning who made it into the playoffs. He was eliminated. But boy, oh boy, what a run. Gemini, did you catch any of the games?
Unfortunately, the NA Cups are in the middle of the night for Korea, so I can never actually see the NA ones. But I usually I did the Korean ones, of course, and the one series that I can recommend if there's any VODs of it. I mean, I casted it, but I don't remember if anyone else did. But there was a Hero versus Parting that played in that one, which was super sick actually, because like Hero just totally slaughtered, like spoilers, but like it was like pretty cool to see like a player that's like coming back from the military do so well against someone. So so there's some pretty good games from him and some of the other players that are starting to come back, like Leenock, Gumiho, sometimes playing them too and stuff like that. So if you guys are interested in like how these players are doing after just coming back from military and within the last couple months or so, definitely try to check out the ESL Korea Cups and some of these other ones, because there's some really good ones.
You're getting ahead of yourself, mate. We're in NA right now. We're going to talk about Korea soon. I love your speech, but we're going to copy past it and we're going to put it back when we actually talk about Korea. Nate, did you catch any of the American games by any chance?
The weekly cup stuff, not as much. I've mostly just been looking at the DreamHack Masters, our EPT playoffs.
Okay. Well, Zombie Grub, you did cast most of it. I was really impressed by Trigger's run. It's kind of funny to see him even take out Marine Lord in the quarterfinals. I think maybe Milky Cow did him a favor by beating Skillis, but what a sick performance. Did he play incredibly well? Was he just feeling it that day? What happened?
It is actually a bit of both. Marine Lord not really playing as well. Obviously, it's like 4 a.m. for him, and he had also played Europe. And he, by now it's obvious that he also doesn't really like playing versus Protoss.
Yeah, I mean, he does have the worst tools and everything, so.
I know, right? So that was rampant throughout both casts, actually, was that little meme. But it was Marine Lord not really playing his best, but then Trigger actually did. He didn't really have like the best openers, but when it came to like the mid game and beyond, he played pretty well. So, he was able to close out games, and Marine Lord was probably giving him more opportunities than he should have, because even apparently he messaged. Apparently they both messaged Pig after the game, and Marine Lord was like kind of question mark, and he was like, I thought I was in a good position, like I don't know what happened. So he was just trying to figure it out. But Trigger actually just gave Pig a question mark. Like, how did I win this? Like, I didn't expect to win this. And so, he moves on to face Cure and kind of gets a little destroyed, because Cure just basically didn't let him play any games. I think Trigger also felt more compelled to actually play odd against Cure than he did versus Marine Lord. So he like hid a Nexus. He didn't go for his natural Nexus. He went for the third Nexus, and then like hoped that his opponent would think it was a Stargate expand or a Stargate proxy, which Cure did. But then Cure was like, oh, it's not the Stargate proxy. I'll just one base this guy. And he won with it. And it's like, well, Good attempt, Trigger, but apparently Kira is really just too good.
I gotta say though, I think it's a great moment for Trigger once you get your best performance in the weekly, and I think up to this point, I don't think he ever even made it to a semi-final. So making it all the way to the final, you walk away with $150, you get yourself a couple EPT points. Well done. Cure winning is obviously not that big of a story because Cure is the only player on this planet that has won all 3 editions, and he's won the American one plenty of times. Cure, we know you're good. It's all good, matey. Congratulations, well done. For the people that really want to see another PvP after DreamHack, I somehow doubt that, but I did see Goblin against Mana. The game on Beckett Industries was honestly quite fun, and I was laughing a bit with Goblin afterwards. I'm like, you're such a baboon, mate. I'm sometimes embarrassed that you're on my team, and he just starts laughing. He's like, who needs a robo? Ha 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 ha. And he made a negative IQ Oracle, as he calls them, when you shouldn't make an Oracle anymore, but he made one anyway. Killed a bunch of pros with it. It was a pretty good time. Before we hop into the next slide, I do have a question for you guys. And I kind of wonder how you feel about this, Zombie Grub. And Nate, I think you can give your opinion on this too. I find the American Weekly a little bit annoying because there is so much server hopping. And I guess there is not really anything to do about it. But every single time when I do stay up after the European Weekly and I'm like, let's do some American, I find it really annoying to cast it because then you can't track the players. The Koreans, they go back to Korea. The Taiwanese players, they go sometimes to Korea too. The Europeans play on Europe all the time. I guess there is not an easy way to deal with this, but I personally find it a very annoying experience as a caster. How do you guys look at this and how do you deal with it?
Well, it's annoying too because you got to be careful with if you're hosting any lobbies, right? You don't want to be in charge of having to do that too.
Oh, that too, yeah.
everybody
Even on
has
the
to be-
American server, exactly. I forgot about
Yeah.
that, but sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that I feel like it's a problem that kind of creates itself just because there are so many options for the servers, right? Like, I think you could almost have something if you had like a server in Eastern, like in Southwest Russia or something like that, and you're like, okay, well now you have EU East or something for the games, but I I guess the ability for so many people to be able to play just makes it easier to play that cross region. But I definitely agree. It's one of those things that's kind of annoying because you just have a really hard time keeping track of people.
Mm-hmm.
It's
There's
the
not much
same
to
thing.
do. I think
Yeah.
it's also an annoyance. In general, open cups are always annoying. Like they're very easy to get people to join, players that is to join. But as far as the casting and production side of things, it has the most downtime, the most accidental. Oh, I forgot to invite you. Sometimes even purposeful, to be honest. Like there are some players out there who you just can depend on to invite you more than others, and it is a frustrating experience. We've had lobbies being full. There's a reason that I think Wardy is taking it a bit more casually. Like he'll dip out whenever he wants to because he has all these other things he's casting. Because it can just actually be a very interruptive experience. And then on North America, obviously, you have all the server hopping. There's nothing really be done because I think it's already amazing that ESL even provides admins in the first place that are actually active during the hours of the tournament. Like there's plenty of other universes where they're just like, yep, it's a free for all, go nuts, and nothing gets done. But there's nothing really to be done about it. So
I'm gonna say something really dumb, and then you guys can tell me on a scale of 1 to 10 how dumb it is. In the American Pro Tour Weekly, every game, no matter where you're from, no matter where the players are from, gets played on US Central.
It is pretty silly
Agreed.
when two Europeans face each other, though. Like, obviously, the whole idea is that you give preference to the North Americans who are playing in their cup, and they still do. But I don't know if you can really constrain the Europeans or the Koreans on North America.
That just reminds me of all the fruitless conversations I tried to have about making it so that we could have one server that all the Grandmaster games at least get played on back in the day for people who are actually playing in America and wanting to do that. But like I said, there's it's hard because the competition isn't as strong. The latency is discouraging for people who aren't top tier, and it's kind of like a free pickings. I don't have as much interest in the NA Cups because of that. Once they opened it up, I was like, well, you're not seeing it being a thing that's like, okay, the bottom players are, some guys that really want to get in there. They want to try and make it into StarCraft. They're that guy that posted on Reddit 2 years ago, like, how do I get into Pro SC2? And someone's like, you got to grind, play the weekly cups. And now he's like, okay, well, I get to play versus. Oh, well, the Trigger signed up. Maybe I'll play versus him. Oh no, it's Cure. Okay, well, I don't think I'm gonna make it as the amateur North American player I want to be when I get my face caved in by some random Korean guy every time the tournament starts. Like, what can you do?
Yeah. I feel like if there was potential and there was demand for enough people to watch American StarCraft, you could even consider region locking these cups. I don't think it'd be the worst thing in the world, but I'm afraid that then it will literally just turn into Neep farming $200 every single Monday, and Scarlet probably not being in the mood to play against Neep, his batteries and his Tempest. And like sometimes it sounds like a great idea on paper. It's like, we're gonna cheer for the up and comers, but what it instead turns into is just Neep winning every single week, and then that's maybe not the greatest idea ever. So I don't know, but yeah, I personally find I wish that I was more excited about the American Weekly, I guess is what I'm trying to
Same.
say. Even when I stay up late at night and I'm like, I want to see how my boy Goblin does, and even that I find annoying. Like, go to NA, go to Europe, and you lose track of any other conversations. And what's nice about the European Pro Tour Weekly, about everyone being in the same channel, is that yes, online tournaments can be annoying as a caster. We have to deal with downtime, but you kind of like there's always lobby. Everyone's on one channel, one centralized place, and you can finish up a best of 3 and just immediately hop into the next one. Oh, what's the score here? 1-1. That's fine. While this is going on, I send out a whisper to Goblin, hey, please wait for your next series. And I feel like there's actually very little downtime. But America is just a bit of a nightmare where some days it's 2 a.m. and I sit here for 22 minutes waiting for someone to finish game 3. It's just not that enjoyable, and it makes me less excited over the tournament overall. Well, it's still $800. There's still EPT points on the line, so it should have the same potential, but I guess it's hard to realize that potential. Anyway, we're moving on. Let's take a look at the Korean Weekly then. Gemini, you had a speech. Give me that speech, baby.
You cut it basically when it was over though. So to recap, basically, yes, if you want to see all the newcomers or the old newcomers of the military returnees from Korea, then the Korea weeklies are pretty good for that. Usually there's just kind of generally less players playing in these, just because the Korean scene in general is smaller. It's at a different day, a different time for the other servers. So generally, you don't see a lot of cross server people playing compared to the other ones. But there's still some really good games that we get. It's usually pretty Protoss dominated. I feel like a lot of the Protoss just in Korea just like playing the cups for some reason. Like you don't see Maro, you don't see Rogue, you don't see Dark usually playing in these often for the reasons that I guess is just like I'm so good I don't want to play in these cups, like the Serral approach and stuff like that. But like you'll get Trap, you'll get Zest, you'll get Parting like almost all the time. And it's like it's kind of weird how like the Protosses are putting in the hard work and wanting to get all the points and stuff like that, whereas the the lazy Terrans and Zergs I guess don't want to do it. But joking aside, the Protoss is where it's at in ESL Korea mostly. But like I was saying, like the Hero Parting series that we saw this last week was super cool if you are a Hero fan, because yeah, he just dumped Parting in like a really cool way, just like was totally controlling the game with really interesting like builds and stuff like that. So good stuff to check out if you're a Protoss person, basically, which I am, which is why I enjoy it so much.
So it's on Sunday, right? So what time is that Central European time for me? Is Sunday morning or?
Yeah.
Let me.
Yeah, because it's 11 p.m. Eastern plus 7 hours would be your time.
Oh, so it's really early.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the EU timing is like really bad for it. What?
Probably like 6 a.m. then, right? If it's 11 Eastern.
Yeah, 5 a.m. It starts at noon Korea time now. They like pushed it back like an hour back from when it used to be on the Sunday times. I'm really happy they did put it back to Sunday, by the way, because like when they changed it to Mondays, it was so that way it doesn't clash with the main EPT stuff. But the Sunday Korea time never, like there was never EPT stuff happening on that day anyway. So it's like to move it kind of sucked, especially since like I can only ever play in them if they're and like cast them if they're on weekends. So I'm pretty happy that they're back, but EU, sorry.
Maybe I'll give it a shot once, see if I can wake up early or stay up and take a look. Because if it's nothing but a big Protoss party, that sounds kind of entertaining. It might be worth giving it a try. Because I find NA just a bit annoying to cast. Like I pushed myself a couple times now. I'm like, I'm out of energy obviously at that point, but it's just late. It's annoying. I lose players. I miss lobbies, and I'm like, yeah, I don't think this is a great idea. What's your Twitch channel, Gemini? Is it just GGMini, all one word? Oh, Gemini.
Gemini SC2. Yeah, I just typed in chat. But
All right,
yeah,
guys.
I did cast the hero porting one. If anyone wants to scour my VOD.
Well, it sounds like a plan. All right, and then last but not least, obviously, congrats to Zest for winning this Protoss party. But I think you gave an excellent breakdown. Also fun to see Hyperion in there, the Raynor Slayer. He's still
I took
going
a game
strong.
off him. I actually could have beaten him. I should have been able to 2-0 that series, but I fucked up. That's my humble brag right now. I'm humble bragging the Rainer Slayer.
That's all correct. That's all fine by me, mate. Let's go ahead and take a look at the European Pro Tour weekly then. I think we had another very fun weekly. The finals was surprisingly fun and close out of nowhere. Zombie Grub, you watched the games. What did you make of the biggest of Gabriel's being like, oh yeah, DreamHack Masters top 3 was what it was, but he's back on top on the weekly. Did you enjoy his performance?
I did enjoy the games. They were all pretty sick, except that one game, which I feel like Roddy would know what I'm talking about. Hero Marine went for a double battlecruiser build, like 2-port battlecruiser, which is fine enough, even though it's extremely weird and very unorthodox for Hero Marine. Like we saw Soul do it. But he was clearly not experienced with it. Like he got supply blocked multiple times. He mismicroed 2 of his battle cruisers, so they died like early on in the game. So he had to remake 3 more. And I was honestly shocked that he tried to fit that in there. That was the 3rd game. He wanted a 3-0 with like a surprise build. But it was actually pretty much so poorly executed that it didn't work, which is not something you'd say very often about Hero Marine.
Did make it for a slightly more fun finals though, because we got that game 4, and I think that was game 4 though, because I think Oxide is the one that Elisa won first. Didn't Oxide go into Elisa's favor? Game 3?
Maybe you're right.
Yeah.
According to the wiki, yes.
Yeah. I thought it was a really a fun weekly. I definitely enjoyed it. Hero Marine Max Packs game 1 and 2 were not that fun. In case you guys missed it and like, should I watch it, Roddy? No. Game 1 and game 2 were awful. Very standard Gabe games. Gabe does nothing. Gabe runs to the other side of the map and Gabe wins. But game 3 was really fun actually between those two. So if you guys missed it, feel free to check it out. Anything, if you look at this graphic, Nate, that stands out for you? A surprising run, a good performance by someone?
Well, now I need to catch myself up on that weekly cup final if I'm hearing that there's some botched battlecruiser builds, because you know me, I love to see. But nothing really jumps out, I guess. Yeah.
What about Gemini, Marine Lord, with tools that are so much harder to use, still getting a W over Showtime? What do we make of that?
And he also beat Zest in the NA one, right? Before losing a trigger? Was that what it was? Man, I guess these Protoss players, sometimes those tools are just really hard to hold on to. I don't know. They just keep dropping them all over the place. I mean, it's crazy. I don't really know, man.
They're so powerful, yet.
He got the WD-40 on them. They're too lubricated. He was trying to clean them and they ended up being slippery.
Stuff. You mean when you take off the tape, you wonder like which side is like the sticky part. Where do you put it? Like how do you wrap it around the thing? Actually, like I don't know. It's hard to actually put all the pieces together with those real complex tools, but sometimes they're pretty strong.
I gotta say, Braddock beating Naniwa was a little bit of a surprise to me. I don't know if any of you 3 follow Naniwa, if you ever watch his stream, kind of keep track of his progress, but Naniwa's normally ranked quite a bit higher already than Braddock is, so I thought that was kind of a surprising victory for Braddock.
I'm always amazed when I still hear some of those names like Braddock and like Kaz and all them. Like Braddock, I remember, like I have this memory of him from like an old Day 9 Daily, literally from the beta of Wings of Liberty, of this fast ghost build or something like that. That was like super, like Day 9 was like super like, oh my gosh, this is such a cool build, like blah, blah, blah. It was on Kulos Ravine to give you the context of how far back that was. Like, it's kind of crazy how some of these players are just still here trucking it all the way from 11 years ago.
Dimaga as well. Whenever I see Dimaga in the weekly, I'm like, that's the guy who won the very first edition ever of the Go for StarCraft 2, which was the old equivalent of the European Pro Tour Weekly, and he won number 1. We ended up with 200 of those cups or so, or even more. I think 500 even. We used to have season finals. That was kind of cool. But yeah, Dima's still going strong. Anyway, congrats to Gabe. He has now won 33 out of the 84 editions. Zombie Grub. Some impressive numbers, isn't it?
Beautiful.
Yes, that is very impressive.
All right.
Don't know what else to
Yeah,
put there.
I mean, sometimes you just have to be silent to appreciate Gabe's greatness, and I can get on board with that. Let's talk about something else that has started then, and that is I love that. That is a great picture. Let's talk about the GSL then. Gemini, you are our resident Korean expert from here on out. Whenever I want to know something about the Korean scene, I'll reach out to you because we know that Tasteless has no time for us. Artosis also actually has no time for us. He's way too busy. So from here on out, you are the uncrowned Korean expert of the scene, basically, and our resident expert at the
Damn.
Pylon show. GSL is back, and we had a very surprising casting combination. Talk to me.
Yes, I mean Artosis and Scan, but Tasteless obviously had the unfortunate incident with being in contact with someone with COVID, so he has to shelter and quarantine for a bit. He's fine, but that's still it's kind of stinky. But unfortunately, I wasn't able to cast it like I did the last time Tasteless was absent, just because of the time switch of GSL. It's always during weekdays now, so it's just like I'm always working, so it just kind of sucks that I can't do that. But
You're telling me that it was harder to find another English teacher instead of a GSL commentator? Come on, you have to let them know that you're saving esports over here, Gemini.
yeah,
I was a bit disappointed. I was hoping that I would see a little more of you there.
sorry, man. I really wish, but I
Did you
can't
try?
just. There's like no scenario where I would be able to walk into my work and be like, yeah, I can't. I just am suddenly not able to come here because I need to talk about video games all day. Like it is not even if I don't tell them literally what I'm doing, it's like it's hard. It's Korean work like culture here is kind of nuts, but yeah, trust me. If there was some way, I would be doing it.
All right.
But yeah, I don't know.
I mean,
That's that.
understandable, of course. I'm mostly joking, but I'll be real with you guys. I obviously don't follow a lot of Brood War. I had no idea who Scan was. Am I the only one? Or
Oh, I know who he is.
I feel like I've heard the name before, but yeah,
He's
I'm not.
on
I also don't really
Artosis's
follow.
channel almost like is like all the time. He's like training him and practicing with him. Sometimes he'll face him on the ladder as a different race. Like
Yeah, Scan is basically like the second, like he's like the Artosis Junior, and just like sitting there like repeating the same stuff, but in like the Korean, like his Korean voice and stuff like that. And it's just like
All of the same. Does he repeat all
Artosis
of
is
the
just
things
like God.
Artosis says?
Artosis is just sitting there, just like God, Protoss, or hey Protoss, and Scan's like yeah, Protoss, not very fun.
I mean,
Horizontal mining, Artosis, just move
uh,
move the SCVs, make supply depots.
I love that, and I see a lot of the highlight clips, obviously, and I see the rants, but yeah, I just Brood War streams, they just don't appeal to me, so I never watch, and that's why I guess I have no idea what's happening there. But a little bit surprised to suddenly hear someone. I knew that Tasteless wouldn't make it. I wasn't sure if that was public or not, but I was like, oh wow, they actually just went for someone that I've never heard cast SC2 before, which is also not something that you would have predicted for the GSL, right? A couple years ago, and it always felt that people were in line to cast the GSL. And now it felt like someone's first SC2 cast was a GSL cast, which I thought was a bit bizarre.
yeah. It's not bizarre
Unfortunately,
anymore.
yeah, unfortunately, there's just like not really people out here right now because of the pandemic. Like, there's just not, Special was obviously playing in it, so it's
Yeah.
not like he could have even casted it either. So yeah, they just Artosis knows Scan, and they mesh well from the streams and stuff. So I guess they went for the safest thing.
The other thing is that like it used to be that you would have I think a lot more like cross contamination of esports commentators. If you were in Korea, you took any job that you could possibly get because no esport was really paying you enough money to just stay with that one esport unless you were Tastosis. So I think that's entirely done away with as well because there are like, a dozen, 2 dozen good English commentators who probably could like, be like, yeah, I guess I'll give it a go. Like Wolf still lives in Korea, but he's doing League of Legends. He's like one of like the biggest commentators now. So, you don't have that same opportunity to be like, hey, we're going to pay you $200 to cast this game. Like, come over here. They're going to be like, no, I'm good. It's fine. No problem. So
Not
it
worth.
really is going to be kind of a crapshoot as to who's going to replace anyone if someone's missing.
Just got to lobby Afrika to switch that schedule back so we get the Saturday casts again, so I can get back on there.
Yeah.
If that's what it takes to get you back on the air, Gemini, I think we should start a little petition. All right, let's
Pitchforks
talk
are
about the
good.
games. I'll be honest, last season I actually didn't even watch the GSL that closely because whenever I was tuned in, I was kind of annoyed by how one-sided the games were, and I felt just the passion wasn't really there. But I was like, you know what? I'm gonna erase that taste out of my mouth. I'm gonna start off with high expectations but a good mood. Let's watch some StarCraft. And I gotta say, guys, I was thoroughly entertained. Obviously, the casting was fun. It was fun to see Dan interact with Scan. It was different, it was new, it was a bit odd, but I can still appreciate and enjoy that. The games, though, the games were pretty damn sick. Did you guys catch them? Who wants to go first?
I didn't catch them. I I might go over them on stream later, but
Yeah,
didn't watch 'em.
I looked at some of Specials games because he does a lot of builds that I like, and I like copying what he does because he's someone who uses battle cruisers and whatnot. He had a pretty good back and forth series against Armani, but it was just kind of one of those like good back and forth games. BC harass openings. There's a little bit of Ravager cheekiness, the safety Banshee making a play or two here and there, but I just following Juanito's journey has been one of my favorite pastimes over the last year because I think he's still a pretty good player, but I've been also enjoying following like his personal journey that he's been on, and he seems a lot happier, seems a lot healthier these days. It's been exciting to follow him.
So when someone like Special does close out a victory, gets to 3-2, qualifies for GSL Code S again, I think Zombie Grub, you already mentioned on Twitter that you were a bit confused about the Code A, Code S thing, or just not necessarily that big of a fan, right? Is that safe to say?
Yeah, I know. I'm an absolute like opposite of a fan. I was responding to Muslim's tweet about it, where he was just kind of, being a little bit like, I don't quite understand it. And I was like, yeah, you don't understand because it doesn't make any fucking sense. It's like, it's nothing. It's actually worse. It's like a whole smokes and mirrors. Like, it's Code A, guys. Oh, by the way, it's really not Code A at all. I don't know why we called it that. Never mind. I'm actually, I'm sure there's a reason they did it in such a fashion, and maybe it really is as simple as like they needed to call this particular stage different, and Code A made the most sense, even though it's obviously has like connotations of something very different. And I guess that's fair, but I mean, I feel like when they announced it, they didn't exactly go above and beyond to explain, yeah, this really isn't Code A, guys. Like, I think they just kind of let it hang in the air, get people excited, and then someone was like, wait a second, it's not at all. So there's not much more to say on that. I just don't like that they called it.
If they
I
had
think we all swindled.
Yeah.
If they had completely changed the name of it, if they made up a new name for what those matches were, I think the sentiment is they believe that people would have thought it was less exciting, right? They kind of used their own branding to lure people in for something that wasn't quite what they're used to, but I think they're just counting on the average person not noticing and being like, "Hey, this is actually less than I was getting," you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like literally a worse version of what we had. It's like we have like the is it actually less people? Or is it still technically the round of 24, which is what last year was?
It's round of 16 now, no?
Well, yeah, but like with like plus Code A,
Yeah, I
is
think
that
it's
like
24.
technically that's
Yeah.
24 people, right? So it's like so it's the same amount of people, but you now have one best of 5 for part of that to get into the Code S. So it's just like okay, so now there's one player that gets to play one match, and at most 2 games or at most 5 games if they lose.
Yeah. All right. For the people who are a bit confused, some people are asking for context. This is the TLDR of it is that in the old days, you had GSL Code S. That's where the best players in the world play. And then you had GSL Code A, which was kind of like the second division. So to compare it to football, Premier League, and the Championship. And if you then do well in the Championship, you'd go up. And if you do bad in the Premier League, you'd go down. Then at one point, Code A just disappeared because the Korean scene didn't quite have enough depth anymore to really make it interesting to see 64 players duke it out over a long season. So eventually, Code S just became Code S. People qualify, 8 groups of 4, 32 players. And then we changed it to what it is right now, where it's like, Code A is back! But is it though? At first, it already went to 24 players, but it went to 6 groups or something. And now basically, Code S is just the 16 best players currently in Korea. And then there is a round of 24 where people play a single best of 5, and then the winners of that single best of 5, they move on to the top 16. So they call it Code A, but it's just a bunch of best of 5. That's why people are a bit annoyed about it. I can sort of get behind it, but that's not going to change. What is perhaps going to change this season is that the games are going to be awesome. Zest is back. Last season he missed out, right? Because he lost to Parting in the Code A, quote unquote. He had one hell of a series against Classic. Gemini, did you already see those games?
Yeah, I looked through them again just today too. And I mean, all the series from the first day were sick because they all went 5 games, which is pretty rare, I think, for a lot of these series. So that was cool to see just the maximum number of games. But the games themselves were also like really cool. Like there were a lot of them back and forth. The Zest Classic series did have like a couple games that looked kind of cool, especially like the Oxide game, which it went down to like single units, like they were both killing each other's nexus and stuff like that. But it was kind of like just like a build order win for Classic, where he just goes proxy void versus someone who's proxying DTs and stuff like that. But the games were entertaining by themselves, and it was just kind of cool to see Classic just put up just immediately coming back like this. People are always like, again, so curious about how people are going to do after they return from military. Just because in the past it's always been basically a death sentence, where if a Korean goes to military, then they're like, I'm done. See ya. It was a fun time, but now we're just done with the little video game thing now. But people are coming back, and they're just molding right back in. It's kind of crazy. So it was definitely pretty cool to see that series specifically. I think some of it came down to a little bit of PvP luck, so maybe don't hedge your funds super big like just yet on Classic being insane, but he's right up there already, which is really, really cool.
Yeah, and he actually should have won, man. That Romanticide game.
That Romanticide game was kind of nuts. That was pretty crazy. So yeah, that was a good one.
If he doesn't lose the Prism, I think he can just A-move him. But even after that, when they finally did have the big fight, at one point I'm like, Sash, you've got like 4 stalkers and a couple DTs, mate. What you gonna do? Well, apparently turn it around. And I don't know if you guys have noticed this too, and this is not so to this series in particular. I have seen so many Protosses lose games in the last few weeks because of recall. Archons just keep on getting stuck, and then they have they spend like a minute freeing up the Archons, and then they lose the game. Am I the only one who's been noticing this? Like, you gotta be careful with your recalls, guys.
Told you, man, those tools, sometimes you fumble them. It's hard to hold on to those, man. They're big, they're hard, and it's crazy.
I can't for the life of me think of a reason why a giant floating death ball of energy couldn't just like, squeeze itself through or maybe float for like just half a second. You know what I mean? Like, what if the Archon fired both of its hands lasers like to the ground? Would it not go up a little bit to fix this problem? I don't know. The truth is out there. The truth is out there.
I think we have to put Nate in charge of game design. Well, Nate, they currently are working on a lot of RTSs, and definitely do want to talk to you guys about that later. Anyway, a very successful start, if you ask me, guys, to this GSL season. In the past, I wasn't always that excited because it just, like I said, it sometimes felt a bit like the passion wasn't really there. And even with the players, like you're looking at an innovation, and he sits there and he's like, "I'm not playing, bros, but I'm still like doing pretty well." And I'm just like, if you guys are not excited, how am I gonna get excited? But this was, I think, a really solid start to this GSL season, so I've got high hopes. Hopefully it continues. The other qualifying matches will probably happen like tomorrow or something, right? Like,
yeah, the other ones are tomorrow. It's actually there's 3 more that are tomorrow, and then there's 2 more on next Monday. So it's cool. Yeah, it's 3 sets of best of 5s and 2 of them. So yeah, the other one, actually, the Creator Dream series 2 is also pretty entertaining. Like the games itself, just all of them were just really interesting from all the series. But that one was also pretty good. I think that one's also pretty heartbreaking though, because it once again showed that Creator is just unable to do anything when his emotions get in the way. It's like it's so heartbreaking every time. He'll just have some really good games against really good players, like Dreams PvT and just in general, or TVP and just in general. Dreams have been doing like really well recently. And Creator was up 2-1 versus him. You had some decent positions in the last 2 games, but like he just kind of crumbles each time, and he just looks so upset every single time he loses. And it's like he just can't. We all just want him to go back to that, that one, the TSL in 2012 where he just broke out the double forge Blink PVT, just like, Blink Colossus PVT, just, just dominating everybody. We just want him to be back there again, but he can't do it every time. It's kind of sad.
I mean, runner-up as well, of course, back then of the Battle.net World Finals, right, where he lost
Yeah.
against Sparding, won Korea. Like, it always felt, I gotta say, it actually takes a really big character, though, that if you were almost on top of the world in 2012, and then you stuck around for a long time, you obviously went away, you came back, he's still trying. It's gotta be, like, pretty difficult to deal with all of that mentally if you, once upon a time, were the very best, or at least one of the absolute very best, and now it feels like he is doing his best, but he still can't really break into that top 16 anymore in the Korean scene. Definitely does deserve some applause. The other match is coming up real soon. Nate, you want to do some predictions for me? Beyond versus Percival. Is there a world where Beyond does not win that?
Like if you want to take all the hype out of GSL, then perhaps Beyond just showing up, he's like half awake. He clearly tried to drink like 2 or 3 hot sixes before his match, but it actually had the reverse effect. Maybe then, a little bit of it gets under the keyboard, can't press his A key quite as easily. I'd go with that. I'll be honest, I don't really know a whole lot about Percival, but I'm pretty excited about that third match. And according to the start time, that's supposed to be at 5:30 tomorrow. So maybe I'll be bold and daring and adventurous to see Gumiho come back playing. I am really excited about him being back.
Yeah, I think that has potential to be a good one. Which match are you most excited for, Zombie Grub?
Yeah, Solar Gumiho. I think Gumiho is a well-loved player, both for his playstyle, performance, but then also, like, he was one of the easiest Koreans to work with. He'd, like, join any online cup. He'd always deliver, like, a really fun performance. So it was very easy to become a fan of him. So I actually hope he makes it through, which makes me seem like a Solar hater. I'm not sure. I don't think that he will defeat Solar, but it'd be cool. Brings out a
Solar
couple
gets
of really cool
nuked.
builds. Something like that, man. Something like that.
No. No. That man took one big nuke to the face, never again. That's gonna, you know what's gonna happen as well. That 12 years from now, when we're all old and I don't know, maybe have families or something, we're like, let's see what's the most popular StarCraft 2 clip of all time, and it will be Solar being nuked by then. It's a timeless gem that will be passed on to generations. It's like, look at this Korean guy, he's in pain because he lost to the nuke. Like, that's never gonna go away. I don't think that man deserves to have that happen twice. But yeah, this is gonna continue tomorrow, guys. If you wonder where do I watch the GSL, you literally just type in GSL on YouTube and you'll find the correct channel there of Africa TV. And whenever it's live, it will obviously show up that it's live. You can just click on it. The GSL player is very nice. Obviously, Twitch chat is not as fun there, or YouTube chat. It's kind of lame. But the player is nice. And the games, they're not always good, but I gotta say, so far, so good. I'm very critical of the GSL, but the first day was an entertaining one. Hopefully, it continues. Now, a man that I also know is very critical about a lot of things is my good friend Nathanias. You're a very outspoken man. Nate, we wrapped up the DreamHack Masters Season Fall. Basically, the 5th edition of StarCraft 2 in the pandemic, in the corona times. These events were never supposed to happen, guys. These events are happening because live events are not happening. And that's why we started with the online equivalent of things, regional championships, etc., etc. 5 seasons in, Nate, you've been part of all 5. How are we feeling?
Well, I think that as commentators, we've kind of seen behind the scenes, at least with the things that we were hoping for that would change season to season, things that have changed, things that haven't. As far as like the tournament format, I'm still not crazy about the mixed groups and the built-in delays that we end up getting. I wish we could go through groups on days, even if it stretched it out. But I know that turns into a whole cost thing. As far as the matchups and the games themselves, I thought that this was a pretty interesting season in terms of, Raynor not being a player that was there in that top spot, right, when we're talking about the season playoffs and whatnot. So a bit of an interesting turnaround. But Kev, if I have something that I do say, because I want to make sure that we address the things that we like in case anyone's listening. I thought the final format on those days, or at least on Sunday, where we had no break going from the desk into the games for the grand finals, I thought that was nice for them to be able to smooth it out. And for some of those other playoff matches, I know that they cut some of the breaks that we'd normally have after 2 games out. And I felt like that made it a lot smoother. I felt like for me, it made it easier to get hyped and excited about the match because we didn't go from talking about it to a 5-minute break and then coming back to start talking about the match again. I felt like it flowed a little bit better. But yeah, I think I wish we'd had maybe a little more iteration season to season in terms of trying to move that format around. But again, like you said, it's also an effect of the times, which right. Well, for all we know, it could have been over by now when we were talking about it, a year ago, right?
It could have, but it definitely isn't, and I don't think the end is in sight. Before I go to you, Zombie Grub, Gemini, as a spectator and obviously as a very passionate StarCraft 2 fan, how do you look at the DreamHack Masters? Do you find it entertaining, and how much do you watch?
So for me, it's pretty. It's kind of like a routine because it happens always like when I'm coming back from work. Basically, it's always on
Well, it
at
happens
night,
all
and
day.
but generally, like before, like I mean, in the old systems, like when I would live in an A, and like there would be a lot of DreamHack EU tournaments. They would all be happening usually like in the early morning and stuff. So I could never, I would have to wake up early to watch a lot of it. So it's like now I can actually watch a decent part of these since they're happening so much. And I think the earlier seasons for like from last year, I think they did fix a lot of the problems that I was having mostly, where it just felt like I never knew what I was actually watching. It felt like there was very little labeling of what certain event or what certain region was going on, which group or like which matches, because they always like went between the different matches. They would do like one match in Group A, one in B, and then like randomly, and then suddenly now I'm in like now I'm in Europe when I was just watching like Oceania or whatever. So like I think that got pretty solved very well. I think they're labeling stuff and kind of just generally storytelling what's going on with the different brackets and stuff better. So I kind of like that. The thing is that it is really exhausting to watch just every day. It's like there's something which sounds kind of hilarious to be like, oh my gosh, there's so much StarCraft. Oh no, it's like, oh, what a terrible thing. But it's like it is kind of like every day. And then if you miss a day, you had some matches that you really wanted to watch. So like you're okay, let me go watch the VODs this day, but then the next day it's on again. So it's like, oh well, I can't. So it's like if you get far behind with something and you want to actually get back on schedule with it, it's really hard to, because it seems like there's no time to actually go back and rewatch a lot of the stuff. I don't know if I mean I don't think even adding like replay or like reviews of like the past day into like the next day's broadcast. Like I never actually see the very beginning of the broadcast, just like for whatever reason. Do they do that at the very beginning? Just out of curiosity,
We
because like
don't
they
have
show like
highlight
past clips.
videos. No,
No.
no, we don't really have highlight videos.
Okay, so like I don't know if doing that would add anything, or if it would just make it longer, because everyone always complains like, oh, just show games, stop talk, like stuff like that. So I don't know if that would actually help or not in what I'm talking about, but it does feel like that it's just really hard to actually keep up with everything whenever I'm watching it, and it's like at some points I will just be like, okay, I mean, I missed it. That's it. Like, I'm not gonna come. I don't have the time to go back and watch
Yeah.
every single little series, and sometimes as well knowing which stream it's on, if it's on A stream, if it's on B stream, like stuff like that. So I think that's the only real concern I have with it right now, where it does just feel exhausting to watch it in general.
I have to admit that I almost never catch Oceania or Taiwan or China. And even though I think there's plenty of cool players in those regions, especially Oceania seemed really competitive. And I think that's the most important thing, because I don't always need to watch Rainer, Clem, and Cero. That's not what excites me. Close matches excite me, a little bit of drama. And Oceania does have that. But you still try to do, like, we obviously don't get to work every single day, so it's not like we earn a paycheck every single day, so you obviously have to take care of your own life as well outside of the DreamHack Masters. And if there is a chance for me to streaming during Europe, that's kind of silly. Streaming during NA is like, I kind of enjoy casting that too. I kind of enjoy watching it. So my only time to really stream for me personally is over Oceania and Taiwan. I haven't seen Maynard and Pig or Zev cast in forever. I don't even know who else is casting those regions, because I just never really watch. And I think that's my main picking point, is like, it's cool that you have StarCraft all day, and that's something you can do for like a couple days, but it's 6 out of 7 days, and then it's for 4 weeks straight. Like that is an unholy amount of StarCraft 2. I think that is my biggest picking point. I don't know how I would change it, but that is the one thing that I struggle with a little bit. Zombie Grub, your thoughts overall and on everything that has been said so far?
Yeah. So I've talked about this a lot in my personal stream, and I want to start with the positives because I do think a lot of things have improved. So we got more graphics, more consistent graphics. We got like prediction goats. We got more filler content, like interviews, silly things. Really like that. We had on the back end more notice about some things, and we added a third commentator for the longest days. Although they say the longest days, actually every day is pretty much around 7 to 8 hours. So they really, if we really were, I guess, asking for everything, I think they should add a third commentator for almost every single day. There's a couple of days where it's like only like Europe and whatever. But anyways, so all those things have like really improved. And I think, you know, as always, it's one of those things where I believe truly that the people involved are very passionate and they really want to improve. But as far as like budget constraints and manpower constraints and just focus, you know, they're probably working on other esports as well. Many of them are. StarCraft 2 doesn't have a lot of that. So I just wanted to get that out of the way before I go on my negative rant. Which is that I really think that it's kind of silly that we're still with the same exact format. I had a bit of a conversation about this on Twitter because the players once again brought up that they don't like the format either. It was Drogo who tweeted it, and then Euthermal agreed with it, and then Lambo agreed with it, and so on and so forth. One of the things they said was like, I guess they don't get direct feedback from the pros, so they might not know that we don't like this. And I, you know, responded with like, fair enough, maybe they don't get direct feedback from you, but I know for a fact that all of us have brought up these issues. And you know, at least one of the commentators has actually taken like screen grabs of like tweets or like Discord messages that are allowed to be public of, you know, North American players saying they literally cannot play. Like Europe, it's just like 3 weeks of intense action, constantly being stressed, having no time to prepare. And then for North Americans, there's a couple of players who would be very promising talent who literally can't do this. They cannot play at 1 p.m. or 4 p.m., the range of being in America, you know, during the weekdays. They have school or they have jobs. So you actually have a couple of players who didn't even bother to try out, even though they would have been really good. So that's very disappointing that it hasn't, I guess, maybe been raised as more of an issue, even though we have raised it in part of, you know, our complaints to our feedback, I should say. Because they have literally some of the first things they told us last year in DreamHack Summer last year was that, you know, we know, you know, some of the things didn't work out. Some of these things are you know, tough, but we're going to improve. We really want to work on this for next season. And at the time, it was like fall was right after. So, OK, they didn't work on it for summer, obviously, because it's the first thing. It's COVID. Everyone's just trying to scramble together. OK, fall comes around. OK, I guess they only had like a month, if that, between like, you know, the end of summer and the beginning of fall. OK, fine. Winter comes around, it's the same deal. Like, well, I guess they only had like a month between everything. So I guess nothing can change. That's understandable, even if it is disappointing. Last Chance was different. Katowice rolled around. Then they had 3 months where there was just an off season. And they come back with the same exact problems for summer. The problems that got fixed on the back end didn't actually get fixed until this fall. So I won't go any more detail than that. But they had these months where I know some people were like giving them benefit of the doubt, which is fair enough. Because again, I think they're all people who want to work on this. It's just a manpower and budget thing. But they're like, oh, well, they probably thought COVID would be over and it'd be in a different format. No. This has been the plan. The only thing that would have been different is that season finals would have been offline, which they did change and is obviously a big improvement. But as far as the other 3 weeks that we do, it is kind of sad that nothing's been changed on that front because the players have been complaining for a while. We've been bringing up that it's very hard to watch. It's very hard to follow. The storylines are difficult because the groups are all over the place. And it's just a ton of work. It's tons of work. So, yeah, there's my negative rant that I don't really like doing anymore because it's, you know, I don't think much is going to change and I'm not sure it's possible to change. And I love all the people who work for like DreamHack and ESL, and I think they're trying to do their best. But it is just like one of those things where at this point, any feedback I'd give, I'd just be like, it's not going to be like the whole format's not going to change. Like I would guess that they're pretty much just hoping COVID to be over so that they don't have to change the online format. They just go back to what it usually was, the DreamHack festivals, which we'd all would love. But that means we are going to have players that are getting burnt out and North American players who can't play, and casters are going to get loopy come the 6th, 7th hour of the commentary. And yeah, that's it in a very large nutshell.
Yeah. And you guys are still going to the finals, so I can like I'll say this, and again, you're totally right. Everybody involved really cares about it. I've had so many conversations with a few of the folks behind the scenes about why the scheduling ends up the way it is, and for me, my number one problem with a lot of this has been I actually the schedule kind of works out for me that I only show up like 8 in the morning to cast all day. That's not super hard, but there are so many Europeans involved with these shows that when they go super long, every day ends up being the same. Where it's like, if Ben's there, there's stuff with his kids, he's getting tired. Everybody gets tired. Everybody's getting tired, and Kev's tired or Wardy's tired. And we're like, oh guys, we're getting to midnight, and the production team is really tired, and things just kind of slow down a little bit. And I think that's like the pacing of it hurts a lot too, because you get into a 10-hour long show, and everybody at the end of it is like completely exhausted, and anything else that you could want to do with the if you had 10 hours, if you could somehow reduce the length of the show in a predictable manner, and you could give production 2 hours to either work on some b-roll or those highlights or anything that you're talking about, or even just in a way where you can have a more effective, more exciting, a more watchable but slightly shorter show, rather than stretching it out to the point of every single person just being so exhausted and tired, I think has a huge impact on the quality of it too. Because by the end of the show, it turns into a whole thing where everybody's just apologizing to each other because they're working as hard as they can, but everyone's being stretched to the limit. And I think that I don't think that that's super good for morale either. So I think if there was a way to make the format better, and especially like you guys said, reduce the incredibly long days for both the players and the production, then I think that would be a really big step to take. But again, like I said, I've been having these conversations with them every single season, giving feedback and asking what we can change. But again, it does mostly boil down to wish we could do more, don't have the budget. The only thing we have is the set amount of time that all these shows take. And I'm like, if the show was shorter, could the time be used for anything else to help improve it? Could it be a better show? I don't know. That's what I think about.
I mean, I personally don't have too much of an issue with long days or working late. Like, I know that sometimes my commentary is maybe not as sharp and I say some stupid things and I'll laugh about it. It doesn't bother me that much. But I do wonder, like, it's not that nice for the players, and I do think that is obviously a concern because we want to make sure that the players are enjoying participating. Like, it's normal to feel some stress, and I also think they shouldn't make it seem like it's the end of the world, that they have to be ready, that they are a bit stressed out, because that is competition. Like, you compare it to any other sport in the world. Yes, athletes and top level players, they're going to feel stress. I do think we should try to find ways to make it a bit better for them, make it a bit easier. But I also just mostly worry about the viewers, because if we are diehard StarCraft fans and we love this game and we make a living out of game and we have a hard time watching everything, like even on days that I don't work, like, do I watch every single minute? No, absolutely not. Like, I'll go over games, and sometimes I definitely enjoy experiencing a match live, especially the European matches. I'm often memeing A stream, B stream, it's okay. But there is no way that I can justify every single day watching 10, 12 hours of StarCraft 2 while sitting here playing with the Team Liquid mascot Blue behind me. It's like, hey, are you, like, I'm gonna go nuts. Like, that's too much. And obviously we need to find ways to create some income too for ourselves, because we're all adults. And that is, like, I think honestly the biggest problem, where it's like, if I cannot watch everything, there aren't as many people who have as much free time as I do. And if I'm struggling to watch all of this and really stay involved and feel like I'm on top of it, how can the viewers? There are very few people on this planet that can say, I watched everything from the beginning of Oceania. I don't think there's anyone, actually. I don't think there is a single person walking on this planet is like, I watch every minute from when the Aussies go live till Nathanias and Zombie Grub say good night after NA is done. Like, that's ridiculous. Like, it's undoable. And I do think it's nice, of course, to have a lot of StarCraft. It's nice to give everyone a chance to shine at the highest platform. It's nice for commentators that there are plenty of days that they get hired, but we also cannot get too carried away with, without exaggeration, probably 72 hours of live DreamHack action a week.
Yeah. I think honestly, the solution that would work the best for everything considered, still having the same amount of days. So, like the casters still get the same amount of days. The players don't have to work as much. The viewers can kind of like prioritize what's important to watch. Would just be making the groups make sense. Instead of having groups over 12 days for Europe, the same groups. Like we don't know what, at the beginning of the day of the week 1, day 1, we're like, this one map could make a difference 11 days from now.
Yeah.
You could just be like there's got to be a way. Okay. Like I haven't done the math, but there's got to be a way to condense groups starting and finishing within, let's say, 3 days for each group. So that way you could at least be like, the players can say, okay, it's not 12 days of stress plus the playoffs week. It's 3 or 4 days of stress. And then you can say, okay, I didn't catch the first half of that group, but I'll make sure to catch the second half because I do really want to see, if Marine Lord makes it out or Showtime makes it out. As it is, it's actually even confusing to know when it might deliver the final, results when it comes to the weekend, because that's not always the case. So I think that's always been what we've suggested since day one is like, hey, these groups don't make any sense. Can we get like some cohesion here instead of having just random choices? And I really believe that is the most doable thing because it still has like most of the same constraints and everything. But I guess maybe it's like, is it more difficult to organize? I feel like it wouldn't be more difficult to organize. I feel like it'd be easier, but like I said, I haven't done the maths on it or anything. So you guys tell me, but I feel like it's very possible.
I feel like at that point it comes down to a difference of like, can you get a couple of hours every day for the whole week, or the 2 weeks that it's happening, or can you get a whole day for the day that your group is played, right? And obviously, if you're going to play with the same format and try to do all of those games in a day, yeah, that's a shit ton of best of threes to get through for sure. But I agree that there has to be some way to condense that, and I think if you can have a group mostly be played out in one stretch, it will be a million times easier for the people who are like, I'm a fan of Estrella. I want to watch this guy because everybody says he's good and I don't normally care about America. How do I watch Estrella play? And they're like, well, he's going to play against this person on Tuesday, this person on Wednesday, this guy Thursday, and then somebody, then the last 2 matches, he's actually going to play on A and B stream on Wednesday of next week. So you won't get to see him play for 4 days. All the other matches will get played. And it becomes a nightmare where you're like, well, do it. What if you tune in for the one series where it's not as interesting and you're like, okay, whatever, I don't care anymore. You lose interest. I think that's something that affects it as well. And to add on top of that, obviously this comes down to the difficulty of the scheduling, et cetera, yada, yada. But you go straight from the European Grand Finals where you crown a champion into, okay, actually we have more work to do. We're going to go into this. We don't really get to spend the day as a community trying to celebrate that moment because you're also throwing something else in there. As well, which, and obviously European StarCraft has a much bigger following than American StarCraft, especially in terms of viewership. So it also causes the NA champion to get completely overshadowed because, by the time that final is reaching its conclusion, unless it's the craziest final of all time, everybody's, they've already moved on with their days or they've gone to bed and they're like, how great that Clem versus Cyril final was. And, it doesn't really end up getting the love that it deserves either.
Yeah. Other thing I want to add is like people are doing some of the math in chat right now. If we had to cut off a few days of DreamHack, I really feel like that would be okay. Like that comes into, I guess more relating to us personally as casters not getting as many gigs. But I would personally be okay with it, especially because then I feel like that would open up more money to add a third commentator, which even on like if it is a short day, it just drastically improves the experience, like regardless of whether we're tired or not for casting 6 to 8 hours. Plenty of viewers at this point have been like, it's actually kind of tiring to hear Zombie Grub, Wardy, and Roddy say the same thing on the desk and then the same thing in the game, then go back to the desk and it's just the same exact people. Like it's not very spicy when that happens. So
Like,
I
that
would
is,
actually
like,
be in favor of cutting off the days.
I read a bit of that, and I can sort of understand it when people were talking about, like, they should add even more commentators, right? And obviously, like, I think that adding someone like a Harston or a Lambo, I do think that would really make the show fun to watch overall, and I think there is good ways to implement those guys. But I do think it's kind of funny how we have 8 commentators, yet The fact that we are shown too much gets brought up, but then Tasteless and Artosis are holding down the fort of Code S for 11 years, and they're like, that is so fucking funny, man. Like, I think
That's a different conversation.
There
though.
are a
I
lot
didn't
of people
mean-
that would watch us all fall into a black hole and never come out if it meant we'd be replaced with clones of them, Kevin. And you're never going to change those people's minds.
I didn't mean that it was like the like what commentators are on the broadcast, just so it's the same commentators for 8 hours. Like
Yeah.
I think that's another conversation we could get into, this whole like debate about like should we be bringing more commentators onto the scene. But that's not what I was talking about personally. I was just saying that it'd be nicer if we had Nate with those three, or Fear Dragon or someone, like 4 people, right? Yeah. Anyways.
Well, we can get into whatever the hell we want today because this is the official edition, the inaugural edition of the Pylon Show without a topic, Zombie Grub. So if you want to get carried away, you can get carried away.
Which I love, by the way, Roddy. I very much approve.
Nice. That makes me happy. I do want to let you guys know at home that it's not just us going to be talking about things that could be changed forever. It's like, why don't you just get Apollo on the Pylon Show? I'm trying, guys. I'm actually trying. And it's been happening a couple times that he's like, yes, no, yes, no. Obviously, Apollo is not just working for ESL and working on the StarCraft 2 side of things. He's also really busy with the other games that happen to be very big, and they take a lot of his attention span away. Sean is doing his best. I promise you we're going to get him on real soon. I'm just going to give him a 24-hour window on a Wednesday. I'm like, Sean, you just pick a moment, and I don't care which moment it is, I will be there. So we will get Apollo's one. We obviously had Hayoken on the show a little while ago. You guys can always go back into the Pylon Show archives and take a look at that edition. And then I do want to mention already, before we continue just talking about everything and nothing, that we have a Q&A. Head over to the Discord of the Pylon Show, and there you guys can submit your Q&A if you are a Patreon supporter. If you want to become a Patreon supporter, take a look at thepylonshow.com or scroll down on my beautiful Twitch channel where there is a Patreon badge. Click on it so Cobra can continue traveling around America and somehow running a Pylon Show at whatever time it is for you. Are you still with us, Cobra, or did you go to bed? Oh,
I'm still here.
Gone. Ah, okay.
I just mute the. Where I am has like a microphone that picks up everything in the room, so I have to actually mute it so it doesn't pick up my keyboard and stuff right now. So I just have to take a second to mute and unmute. That's all. Running the show from a laptop that's remoting in over a 4G signal. Hello.
Hell yeah.
I just want you guys to know at home that Cobra is doing his best to keep the Pylon Show alive, and obviously I'm doing that too. And if you guys appreciate it, then please go ahead, take a look at the Patreon. If you can miss a couple bucks a month, it would go a long way. Cobra is showing it right now. So we spoke a lot about the format, guys. We spoke a lot about XYZ, stuff behind the scene, casters, long days, players stressed out. Let's just go ahead and talk about some games. Clem gets the three-peat, wins Europe for the 3rd time in a row. Zombie Grub, is Clem the greatest player in the world right now?
Probably not. He might actually have a go at the greatest TVZ in the world, though. I think that actually would be fair enough to say. He's got to play more against like a Dark or a Rogue who come in and totally throw off his rhythm. But I think you could say maybe best TVZ in the world.
Nathanias, as our resident Terran lover, he may not build as many battle cruisers as you'd like to see, but that Marine Micro is pretty sexy. What do you make of Clem just overall as a performer in these tournaments?
Unbelievable. He's unbelievably good to watch, and it's awesome. You know, I'll putting the. There's really no way to say it without coming off as biased, so I'm just going to say it anyway. If you're a Terran fan of StarCraft, you don't have a non-Korean player that you can care about, that you can actually see be successful since what? Like pretty much you thermal winning IAM Shanghai, and then it took freaking years and years and years. Unless you're a really big fan of the Latin American scene, you just takes years and years and years for you to see somebody actually be competitive outside of Korea. You could cheer for somebody that's, you know, if you're a European or if you're a Frenchman, I can't imagine how good it must feel if you're just a French StarCraft fan who plays Terran and you're like, holy shit, there's somebody here that actually represents me and can go toe to toe with these guys, because you never get to see somebody win. And then you look at the results this year, and Clem is he's wiping the floor with everybody. He's unstoppable. He makes Cyril look like he's playing in slow motion in the grand finals. He can't keep up. He's all over the place. I mean, there was a stat somebody was posting about this on SC Reddit, I think, like this morning, that Cyril never maxed out at any point in the whole grand finals. He never reached 200 supply. because Clem is just that good. And it is really insane to think about because nobody else has like had this same sort of increase in their performance as far as Terrans go. Like you could argue Marine Lord's back in shape, but I'd say that's more of a back in shape rather than I've gone Super Saiyan. Where Clem, it's a good time to be a Terran fan because you actually have someone you can cheer for that can win in that regard. And I think that that's one of the biggest things. But also Clem is playing on another level. I don't know that anybody does TVZ as good as him because. Again, he made Cyril look like he's playing in slow motion, like he's just stuck in mud. He couldn't keep up at all.
I thought it was honestly pretty shocking that Saro had such a good season, right? 7-0 in the group stage, only dropped 2 maps, making it to the grand final. Demolished Gabe. Like, Gabe won 1 map, but even that map Gabe probably shouldn't have won. But it looked like he was almost outmatched against Clem, and I was shocked by it. Like you said, it looked like he played in slow motion. Obviously, we know Yona is very quick, but I was honestly shocked. And if people tell me, like, Roddy, did you enjoy that finals? I'd be like, no, because Clem was too good. It was actually... I haven't really seen that before. I feel like we know Clem is capable of beating Cyril and Raynor and literally anyone else on this planet in this matchup. But for him to look like that, to win like that, it was a one-sided victory for Clem. I don't think there's any other way to put it. Is Clem that good, Zombie Grub, or do you feel that Yona had a little bit of an off day?
I think he's had a bit of an off day. He actually seemed to have kind of an off week. None of his matches really looked like he was in the top of shape possible. But if any of them did, it was probably the games against Clem, I suppose. It was harsher versus on him, like when he faced Raynor. But yeah, even then, I don't know if it was Cyril at 100%. I don't think it really matters, though. I feel like Clem has actually reached this point where he just understands the way that the European Zergs play. That it's actually up to them to just entirely counter figure out how Clem plays. Like, I don't think Clem or Cyril mechanically 100% actually beats Clem, I guess is what I'm getting at. I think, like, stylistically, strategically, it's going to have to be on them to mix things up, which, you know, to be fair, is exactly what Raynor did and why he got closer to defeating Clem than Cyril did. So I'm not saying that Nidus Stormers are going to win, because they almost never do. But at least it threw Clem off.
Gemini, did you watch the grand finals or anything before deep into the playoffs of the European DreamHack Masters?
The finals and stuff usually happen too late for me. It's after I go to bed, unfortunately, so I can never watch them unless, you know, someone who I really want to watch is playing late at night. But especially if it's no Protoss, I'm not going to. But I was actually interested in Max Pax's run though, because I'm actually pretty big on Max Pax right now. I think he's been doing really, really well. It's really cool just to see how well he's improving over time. And I think it was just a really good run out of him. Some of those games that he played were just really good, especially, I mean, the Marine Lord series, the classic one that is going to be going down now as the Tool meme, I mean, he played it really well. I thought he had some good comebacks, especially on Lightshade. I thought it looked like he was in some awkward spots for a lot of it. But then the interesting thing is to then look at that series and then to see Clem go against him the next series and then just like dismantle to like to an extent that just seems kind of insane, because like it's just kind of insane how good Clem is right now in a lot of these matchups and just versus everyone. It like really does feel like this is him just being the Cyril that was dominating so hard a couple years ago. Like, he needs obviously some more tournaments to get to that point where it's like, obviously, yes, this is like the goated Cyril run equivalency, but it's like he's absolutely getting there. And it's kind of crazy to see how it does just it seems like it rotates. It's like, okay, we had Cyril. Okay, now Raynor's up there and now doing it. Okay, now it's Clem. It's like, okay, like where's it going to go next? Like if I spin the wheel, is it just going to land on some random person and that's going to be the person that this year or this couple seasons is just like showing up way harder than anyone else? It's like, I don't know. But right now it looks like Clem is just, you know, on another level, which is insane.
I think Clem is a beast, and obviously the run, like winning the DreamHack Masters Europe 3 seasons in a row, doing it once last year, and now winning the first 2 editions, that is nothing short of spectacular. But obviously we do have to talk a little bit about Raynor. Raynor was not playing from home. There were people on the internet, believe it or not, that were upset with me because I mentioned Raynor wasn't playing from home, Raynor wasn't playing from a hotspot. Roddy is making excuses for his body. I'm like, guys, I've got a shocking announcement. I'm on really good terms with Clem too. Absolutely love that kid. But if Rainer's not from home, that's my fucking job to talk about that. And then on top of that, if I think that has a big impact, I'm going to say that. That has nothing to... If the tables were reversed, if Rainer was at home, but Clem was playing from Marbella, I'd be like, I think Clem is going to get annihilated, guys, because Clem is not at home. But do you guys think it could have been different if Rainer was just at home? Or is Clem just that freaking good that Clem would have won the tournament anyway?
Clem would have won the tournament anyway, I think.
Ooh, you're unfollowed by Rainer right now.
I'd be willing to throw a maybe in there. I see Rainer. I see a lot of Rainer's strengths to be very similar to Clem's strengths. And if there's one thing, especially when it comes to fast-paced play, you have to be as comfortable as possible to execute those actions. You know, it's not like Rainer wins all of his tournaments because he comes up with 700 IQ builds that he could execute, you know, on a $7 Microsoft mouse and a Dell, you know, pre-built keyboard. He's you know, your environment matters. Where you're playing from matters. Your comfort level matters. You know, they say that when you sleep in a new place for the first time, you don't get as good sleep because your brain stays on alert. Right? There's all sorts of weird shit psychologically, and you know, with the way that our comfort levels work. That obviously things could have been way different if he was in his normal standard setup where he's been kicking ass for the last year or two.
Zombie Grub, you have something you want to get off your chest?
Oh yeah, well, someone was like, and yet nothing is said about ping when it comes to the season finals. Suspicious? Do we never bring up ping with the Korean versus Europeans?
Talking about ping. Oh my god.
I really love that a lot of people seem to have this conspiracy that we have a conspiracy. Like, I think saying that like the casters are biased in kind of like a factual way, they don't really mean to be insulting. They're just like, well, you guys cast so much Europe and North America. Like, I think you start to devalue Koreans. I'm like, okay, yeah, maybe that's fair. But the way that people are like, you give all these excuses to Rainer, but never to the Koreans. And I'm like, that's just really not true. But the fact is that the Koreans have been playing cross-server with ping issues for over a year at this point. So we mention it, you know, once or twice, just as offhandedly, because everyone fucking knows it. And it's redundant to keep on talking about it. Whereas the Rainer thing was actually a very unique experience that, you know, people just joining in would be like, oh, he's playing not from home? I couldn't tell that because the cameras aren't even on. And even if they were, you wouldn't be able to tell. They don't memorize what our backgrounds look like.
They know his room layout to a T.
Also, I just want to say that is absolutely not true. We always talk about the Koreans playing with ping. And whenever we do a season finals or a TSL playoffs, I always mention that we are alternating between US West, which favors Koreans. And yes, it fucking does, guys, because I've been in Korea, I've played on US West, I lived in America, I played on Europe, and I lived in Europe, and I played on US West. Trust me, it favors the Koreans. Central favors the Europeans, though. And the one thing you could say is that Central favors the Europeans a little bit more than West favors the Koreans over the Europeans. But that's why it's often West, Central, West, Central, West. The Koreans actually get the better end of that bargain, because playing on US West from Europe is a damn nightmare. We do talk about it, we do mention it, we don't spend 3 hours on it every single day because nobody gives a rat's ass other than two guys who believe Zombie Grub gets a $200 bonus at the end of the day if Rainer beats Maru because he cast Rainer all year. Let me just tell you guys, we don't. It doesn't fucking matter who wins. We are neutral. Obviously you cheer for your French, but most importantly, you cheer for good games. It's the lamest freaking thing in the world. People ask me today, Roddy, who did you hope was winning between Clem and Cyril? I don't care. I like them both. They've both always been very nice. They're both amazing StarCraft 2 players. Like, I obviously like to see Hero Marine beat Cyril, and that's not because I love Gabe and I hate Cyril, but that's his story. That is something that's been in the works for a long ass time, right? Hero Marine always loses. He's the gatekeeper, yada, yada, yada. He can't get it done. I thought that would have been a beautiful story. And yes, then I do cheer a little bit for Gabe because everyone loves an underdog, at least in America. And Roddy does too. So I would have loved to see Gabe do well. Didn't work out. That's a shame. I had high hopes. We'll talk about that soon as well. But then when it's Clem against Cyril, I hope it's good games. It's a perfect advertisement for StarCraft 2. It's the grand finals. It's when most people watch. And whether it's Clem Cyril or Cyril Maru or Maru against Zess, like, no, I don't care if Protoss wins. I don't care if the European or the American wins. We hope that we have great games. It makes casting easy, and it makes all of us happy. We've already all said this a million times. I wish I would get a bonus when Reina would win, because we'd all be freaking balling by now with the amount of tournaments that he's won, beating up those Koreans. It doesn't make a damn difference.
No.
Mm-hmm.
Well said, Kev. Well said. I think I would heavily argue it's much better for all of our careers as people who are still invested in professional StarCraft if the grand final it goes to the 7th game. They're all bangers. It's really close, and whoever we pick to win loses. It doesn't matter. It does, you know, for the commentators, the only thing that makes our jobs easier and more exciting is when the players are able to do their best and have a good game. You know, when people sit back and don't do stuff because of either ping issues or for whatever reason, if they're not feeling comfortable that day and we get a slower game, you'll always see it. You know, we have to find things to talk about, or there's a little bit of more speculation on what's going to happen. But when the games are exciting and they're back and forth and they're rolling and it's not just one guy stomping the other person and we get to 3-0, we're like, okay, well, yeah, I guess probably going to be it. Can they do a reverse sweep? Right. And you're suddenly basically you're just like, yeah, well, yeah, I think they'll be able to land a Hail Mary, get an onside kick and do it again. No problem. Like, no, it's not the kind of thing that you just throw out there. So yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. And that's those things always get brought up with like the bias and who somebody wants to win. I'm like, I don't care. I always pick Cyril to win. I'm a bigger Cyril fan than a Clem fan. I'm just happy for all the Terrans out there that get to see a Terran actually win.
I got accused of being €2 biased when they play against the Koreans for a year and a half. But then Stats beat Zero at Home Series Cup, and a lot of the guys are like, God, listening to RotterdaM and Protoss is winning is so annoying. And I'm like, oh my God, guys, I'm actually cheering for the underdog here, okay? Stats lost, I don't know how many finals against Cyril. It's good to see that one guy finally attacking when carriers are powerful and strong. I was happy to see it. Like, God, this Protoss bias. And I'm like, if Cyril would have won, I would have been Cyril biased again. It's so dumb. It's really annoying. But anyway, let's go back to the tournament. I want to talk about my man a little bit, the Gatekeeper. Big Gabe. People were also upset about that. I even had a tweet, and I don't have the tweet at hand because I think Twitter is dumb and I don't use it that much. But basically, someone's like, yo, I like you, RotterdaM, and I'm a loyal subscriber to Hero Marine, okay? But you're predicting Hero Marine to beat Cyril when he hasn't done it for years? That's just unrealistic. Be realistic, man. And I'm like, wait, we're looking at a Gabe who's playing some of the best StarCraft he's ever done. He's winning weekly after weekly, dominant in the group stage, did really well in the playoffs. He's in the upper bracket final. And yes, he's facing a guy that he doesn't beat very often. But I thought this could be Big Gabe's moment. I felt if there's ever a moment the stars are aligning, it felt like a somewhat reasonable take. Maybe a bit of a long shot, but I thought if the very best Gabe shows up, he could do it. He didn't. Someone was upset. I predicted wrong. Nate, I know that you're a big fan of people getting really upset at wrong predictions.
It's criminal. It's criminal, Kev. You know, it's almost like everything is so fucking hard to hype up with the absurdity of all the things we've talked about that maybe, just maybe, sometimes we try to make things interesting to ourselves because it makes our jobs a little bit more fun too. You know, it's not criminal to step out on a ledge and be like, I think this could be the moment where something interesting and unexpected happens. You know, it's called hope. It makes life interesting when you believe in things that are unlikely. You still want them to happen.
But they made it seem like I just predicted my own Terran to 4-0 trap. Like, this is the upper bracket final. There are two really good players. It's supposed to be, you know, one could be the favorite, but there's supposed to be potential.
Yeah.
But I was a bit disappointed, guys. And I spoke with Gabe a little bit about it the following day on Discord. I was like, Gabe, what do you make of it? He's like, it was going perfectly fine. Just, that was good. I'm like, was it, Gabe? And he's like, yeah, I mean, until that misclick in game 1, and that's obviously when the Marines got moved. I was like, well, Gabe, that's kind of a big deal, right? Like, and maybe if we are playing well. But I wasn't quite getting the conversation I was looking for, and that's okay. But Gemini, you didn't see Hero Marine against Cyril by any chance?
I think it was like on when I was just doing stuff, but I wasn't fully paying attention, to be honest. So
Okay.
I just know that he did just lose just in a pretty normal, you know, just kind of Cyril doing a Cyril thing way. So
I mean, Saro did look very good, but then the following day it showed that obviously there is a way to beat Saro, and I know that Clem is very fast and very precise, yada yada yada. But were you a little bit disappointed, Nate, by Gabe maybe not getting the upset done?
No. I mean, because it's not a surprising. It's still not a surprising result, right? You hope for the best, but I mean, like how much can you ask for? If I think about the strengths of both of those players, Cyril is across the board. He is just a better player. I've been a huge Cyril fanboy for a very long time, and I'm also a Hero Marine fan. But being a Hero Marine fan, I'll tell you, for the last 10 years, that's just one of those things that I always hate bringing this up because there's nobody that likes to hear this, but it's just hard because you cheer for these guys. They get close. They make it to the upper bracket final. They'll always get to that point where they'll play against the number 1 or number 2 player, but you just don't see them overcome them. And it's, yeah, of course it hurts. You still want to be a fan of them because they play the same as you. You can still learn from them. You can still be excited for their games. But that's when we talk about tiers and people having the ability to make those exciting upsets, that's why the attention shifts more towards guys like Clem. But I can't say I'm upset, honestly. I still love Cyril for being the guy to give us a non-Korean world champion, and I have an infinite amount of respect for what I think he's done for the game since that happened.
Zombie Grub, if I tell you that I thought the initial 2 or even 3 days of the finals week were more exciting than the last 2 days, would you fight me over that, or would you agree?
No, I would agree. It felt like there was actually a lot of subpar performances. Again, like it never felt like really like, this is the last 2 days of a big event. Everyone's playing at 100%, which, to be fair, is often not the case. We have plenty of examples of the round of 8 being, pretty lame, or the finals clearly being one player, better prepared. But yeah, it was another one of those where I was just like, I mean, they're good enough games, but they, I'm not super excited. Like the last time I felt honestly like super just like this is like the best it can be online with all the schedule issues. There you go, guys. But that was like Katowice was when I was like, I honestly feel like this is like the next coming of StarCraft. Like this, like everyone's elevated. And I think we got used to the elevation. And now I'm just expecting the next elevation at some point. And it hasn't happened. These were okay finals, personally.
So in the end, the final 4 Europeans that did qualify is Max Pax, our very first Protoss, Hero Marine, Clem, and Cyril. Those will be the 4 European representatives at the next season finals. This obviously means that Raynor does not have the opportunity to defend his crown of being the season finals champion, because every region brings forward a champ and then sometimes a couple of extra players that will all duke it out at the season finals. That will take place roughly 3 weeks from now. A couple of us will be going to Sweden for that. Nate, are you making an appearance this time? Are you allowed to talk about that?
Tragically not, Kevin.
Are
Tragically
any of
not.
us?
One day, maybe one day.
Good
I
old
never know when
Sweden
we're
is-
allowed to talk about it.
I feel like that's a real 2012 thing. It's like the guest announcement is a big secret. It's coming
I
out.
remember if you
I
mention
feel
it
like
on your
these
personal
days.
stream, we are going to we're going to tell you that we're quite upset at you. We won't do anything, but we'll tell you that we're upset.
Whenever
Of course, we're
people
going to announce the talent 2 days before the event, so get anyway.
or not
Or not at all.
Hope
yeah,
you didn't
or
want
not
to
at
tell
all.
your viewers that you weren't going to be live for a week.
Yeah.
No, like there's been moments where like I was like not allowed to talk about it, but then I'm taking a selfie at the airport. I'm like, hey guys, I'm on the way to Stockholm. They're like, hey Roddy, what are you gonna do in Stockholm? He's like, if only I could tell you. I'm like, I don't think that's that big of a deal. And I think that with all the fires that ESL is dealing with when it comes to organizing and mirroring games online, the last thing they care about is if we say we're traveling to Sweden or not. I'm just gonna go out on a limb, guys. I will be in Sweden and I will be there for the season finals and also for Aces ROG the following week. When are all those qualifiers happening, Zombie Grub? Do you know that by any chance?
For Asus?
Yeah.
No, I haven't looked at it yet. Sorry.
That
Isn't
must
it
be
happening
coming
like
up
right
soon.
now?
What?
No, like not literally like this split second, but I mean like I thought I saw someone doing the qualifiers like yesterday, but I could be wrong. I'm
Right.
looking it up.
Could be right. I mean, they don't want to do it during the season finals,
Mm-hmm.
which is the week before Asus. So
No, I'm wrong. Sorry.
September
Someone
1st
else.
and 2nd is what someone says, and that someone is slowly falling as he knows everything. So I'm gonna trust. Am I
course.
busy on September 1st and 2nd? Let me take a look real quick. Wednesday and Thursday. Now those are days to run some StarCraft. I can get behind that. Might have to do the Pylon show a bit earlier then, guys, but we'll talk more about that later. Anyway, those are the 4 finals. Let's go over NA playoffs real quick as well, because NA deserves some love too. All the other regions we already covered in the previous editions. So let's go over the NA playoff bracket for a split second. I gotta say, is there a better way to wrap up an NA grand final of a tournament we've all been casting for 3 weeks than with a 12-pool drone pool, guys? Is that the most NA moment in history?
Is that how it ended? That's amazing.
Yeah.
You know, this is, and it's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful because again, we really just get to witness the culmination of all the jokes and having the maps not really change to the degree that maybe we wanted, where everybody avoids a map because it's just generally agreed to be garbage, and then we get to game 7. Oh, we're finally there. This is it. It's 3-3. Who's gonna win? Oh wait, it's the map that you can't really play a normal game on. So obviously some dumb shit has to happen, and that's what happened. It was an exciting game though. That final was pretty fun. It was basically Neeb. If Neeb could macro, he wins, and Scarlet just kind of went for a lot of really aggressive plays all game. But the cherry on top was watching those 12 drones really work on that cybernetics core to try and get through before that shield battery finished. And just watching all those probes tasing them with the battery, raining that sweet juice down on them. What can I say? Have we had a better grand final than that before? I'm not sure.
I mean, there is even another moment. Like, if Neep's probe is just a little bit out of position and those drones, they sneak through, they surround the Zealot, Scarlet actually wins. And I've seen plenty of games where you don't have your probe there, because why would that probe be there immediately? So, Neep honestly did everything right there. But yes, Gemini, that is how it ended. I gotta say, the final day of NA, like, I know PvZ, people don't feel the same about PvZ as they feel about a nice TVZ, or even a TVP could be a banger. PvZ is like, okay, we talk about Void Race, talk about batteries, but those were some really good series, man. Both Scarlet Australia and Neeb Scarlet, I thought they were incredibly entertaining. As a StarCraft 2 fan, if you missed it, you gotta watch it. And if you guys
Really good.
disappointed Australia did not make it into the top 2, or do you think that's perfectly fine because we have Neeb and Scarlet?
Yeah, I think that's pretty good. I was actually gonna ask like what the Estrella Scarlet series was like, because like I feel like having Estrella keep coming into these season finals is like a really cool thing to have, like a different NA Protoss coming in instead of it being Neeb. As every time, as much as I love watching Neeb, it's just like cool to see Estrella come back and keep doing well. So I was just curious, like, what did it seem like? It was a 3-2 obviously, but it's like, did it seem like Estrella was kind of just barely getting games, or was it like a actual competitive series?
Recall. If those Archons ain't stuck in that final game on Oxide, I think he could have held. Fucking Recall, guys. Recall is Zerg player's best friend.
A hell
But
of
I'll
a
let
drug.
you answer the rest of the question, Neat.
Yeah, well, it was a pretty exciting match. But the way that I would describe it was Estrella gets himself into like a pretty good position, and then just his side is just totally open. Like the Blackburn game, he was taking it to Scarlet all game long. He had really good creep denial. He killed a bajillion drones. He's hitting everywhere. But Scarlet was really good about her counterattacks in the series. Estrella didn't really cover his flanks super well because he was constantly trying to be out on the map. Was the biggest thing that stood out for me. Like I thought he was going to win the Blackburn game, and then as soon as he moves out, the lurkers hit 2 of his bases at once. He's got 8 carriers, no probes, 0 probes, no minerals,
Yeah.
8 carriers.
That's
Fight
so
the Hydras.
sad.
He
That was so
canceled.
sad.
His +3 air was about to finish. Scarlet had +3 carapace on her Hydras, so you know those carriers aren't doing as much damage as they should without that upgrade. He had to cancel it at like 90% because he had no interceptors, and that was it set up for a very uninspiring final fight because he just he got wrecked by the harass. He was able to build that army, but Scarlet did a really good job breaking the economy, and that was kind of how the series overall felt. 2000 Atmospheres was kind of similar. He was getting out of the map, doing some aggression, but Scarlet was really, really good about taking that damage while getting the counterattacks and harassing. And I think the 2 games that Estrella won were a little bit more scrappy. Maybe one of them was the Queen push on Beckett, where about 15 adepts and 2 batteries somehow killed 8 Ravagers, 6 Queens, and about 40 Zerglings with resonating glaives. I actually still didn't think that he was going to win that game, but Scarlet missed all her biles on the shield battery that was overcharged in the natural. So that one was able to, well, do what shield batteries do.
It was like, wait, it was a glaive opener, or was it off of like a Stargate?
He wanted to go for a glaive. He went for a glaive build on Beckett, and Scarlet did the German Uberlift or whatever it is.
The airlift over the wall.
The German Uber ride, whatever it's called, the lift trip. Something like that.
No, they were fun, Gemini. I definitely think you should check them out. I'll see you getting debated by Twitch chat, mate. Come on, you've been around for so long, Gemini.
I gotta. When I see someone making a comment that fucking stupid, I have to just, slap them back with a smiley face, I
know how it feels, but still. All right, Cobra, can you do me a favor? Can you just show me the entire lineup for the DreamHack Masters season fall on Wikipedia? So we take a look at the Koreans that qualified a long time ago by making top 4 in the GSL, and then we had some play-ins too. I actually didn't cast those play-ins this season, and the reason I didn't cast them is because by the time I woke up, I saw that Zombie Grub, Wardy, and everybody else was live, and I'm like, oh, that's happening this morning. I'm like, well, I'm sitting in my backyard, the sun is shining, I'm having a coffee at 1 p.m. Good luck, guys. I'll cast them at the actual season finals. But let's take a look at all 16 players that you guys will see in action in a couple of weeks. I can tell you guys a tiny secret at home, and that is that the plan absolutely was not just to bring the casters to Stockholm, but to actually at least make the season finals happen in person for the players too. But that was a rather ambitious plan, and that was a while ago. And that's obviously, it's just not really possible at the moment. There is a new variant each and every single week. Every single time we think we're opening things up, we're closing things again. And unless you're Nate and living in Vegas, you're probably going to face a lot of restrictions left, right, and center. So the players are still going to just be playing these games from home. That sucks a little bit, but I can guarantee you that production and organizers and casters are going to do the best possible job we can to make you guys as excited as ever. Hey, they announced the groups. I didn't even notice. There are groups.
Yeah.
All right.
I thought that's what we were transitioning to.
No, but that was very smart by me. I thought we were just going to take a look at the player lineup, but we've got groups, ladies and gentlemen. Let's take a look at these groups then. Group A, Neep, Hero Marine, SOS, Spotting. I mean, it's just like another... It's just like another evening on the European ladder. Instead of Gerald, it's Neep, but they're both not as good as me. Gabe going up against 3 Protesses. What do you make of that, Gemini?
I just love your Hero Marine impression every single time. It absolutely kills me. Just please keep doing it every time. I think this group is actually really cool because, I'm just thinking this from a Neeb perspective, because I do like Neeb as a player for a while. That's a group he could get out. If he has some solid PvP stuff prepped out, SOS is really hit or miss sometimes. Parting is really good at PvP, but again, it's PvP. We can get some stuff going there. And then seeing a Neeb versus Hero Marine again after I don't remember how long it's been since they've played, but it feels like I haven't really seen them playing much recently. But just as a Neeb fan, I think that could be a really cool group for him. And then can't wait to see what kind of tweets are coming out during that group, just in general, from the StarCraft community about the wonderful balance state that we have for PvT right now. So can't wait to see that. But I'm
Nate and Zombie Grub, talk about whatever you want, because there's plenty to talk about.
Well. It is. So someone was asking earlier, we're talking about what's going on if you're trying to follow a guy like Estrella, and I'm like, well, if you're not here, you're not really much of anywhere. I think Clem versus Special Group B potential. I like that. I don't know. I think that could be a cool TVT. As far as I don't know. I guess I want to see Cyril do well in that group. I think that'll be a very interesting one. Do we know? I guess it's kind of already set out from the previous tournaments that we've had, and what kind of server setup that's going to be. They're just going to go between EU and Korea, or are they going to just make everybody lag and play on America?
No. They're definitely going to make everyone lag and play on America. It will be,
Okay.
In a best of 3, it will be West, Central, and West. So once more, that's a small advantage for Koreans. Unless you're a European who lives in Ukraine or Russia, then you get Central twice. But Cyril does not qualify for that. Clem does not qualify for that. Gabe and Neep don't qualify for that. Well, I don't. With Neep, it's going to be back and forth, of course, home server, Korean server. So yeah, it's going to be the same rules as always. Zombie Grub, looking at these groups, what stands out for you? What do you want to talk about?
Well, I think Cyril has kind of a no problem to the round of 8s. Maybe Trap beats him, but not if he plays like he did last season finals. But still, definitely top 2. I think Scarlet also has a really strong shot at making top 2 again of a group, maybe even first. Probe probably for once has I suppose a bit of a doable group. Because, one of the things we always say about the Australian representation, who's most of the time Probe, is that they also get one of the most difficult groups.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're all difficult for Probe, brutally honest. But maybe this one is the most realistic. Something could happen against Time and Scarlet. I don't know about Dark. But I'm actually where Scarlet, I didn't think was going to make it round of 8 last season finals, and she did. I actually think she is going to make round of 8 this time. And then I really think Max Pax is a strong chance too to make top 2. I think he needs to tighten up some of those really big mistakes, his War Prism control that he was showing in DreamHack. But otherwise, other than that type of still very important mistake to be making, I felt like I was actually pretty impressed with his PVT. The special came out with really good builds last season, so I don't know. Especially came out with really good TVT builds too, and he is Alteran for the most part. Yeah, this is I don't know. I think as far as the Koreans 100%, I think Dark gets through and Trap does get through. But am I thinking Bunny is a guaranteed top 2? Not really. And I'm not really sure about SOS because I'm never sure about SOS. But maybe that Group A is actually the one that I'm most interested in.
All right. If you guys want my take quickly, I agree with most of you guys said. I gotta say though, I like Group A and B a lot because I think Group D, I think that's gonna have some fun games, gonna have some memes, we're gonna laugh, but it's gonna be Sarah and Trap advancing. Group C, love Probe. I don't think he's gonna do a whole lot in that group. Just don't shoot down your own War Prism this time on Oxide. If you can do that, I'm already. Yeah, that was sad. But I think it's always gonna be very hard for him. I think between the other 3, could be Scarlet, could be Time, should definitely be Dark. But Group A and B. And this is not doing the cast the hype thing. I can see almost any combination of players making it out. And I can even see a world where Clem does not make it out. I know that shouldn't happen, but this is actually the kind of group where Clem could falter in the group stage. I think A and B have a lot of potential, guys.
Yeah, I think it's actually very, very possible that Clem doesn't make it out. He didn't make it out last season finals, and maybe that was a fluke, but this one with all the Terrans. Max Pax being one of the Protosses who can sometimes throw him off his game.
Yeah,
I'm actually very scared for Clem.
I love Max Pax as a wild card in that group, and I completely agree because if there is a silver bullet, I mean, Clem is unstoppable TVZ. I would be willing to say that, but if there is a scenario where he loses, it would be the TVT, especially against 2 players that I think are really good at that matchup. Special in particular, I absolutely do not expect him to get rolled in that matchup because you're talking about his greatest strength. So yeah, no, I totally agree with you, Kev. Those 2 first groups are the ones to me that are the least predictable.
Yeah. I can see Neep and Hero Marine make it out. I can also see Parting and SOS make it out. I can see Parting Neep, Parting Gabe. Maybe Gabe SOS is the least likely combo of them all. But that's actually going to be really fun. And then I don't think Max Pax beats Clem very often in a best of 5. But in a best of 3, it becomes so much more likely in a weird way. Because we all know Protoss, with their amazing tools, you pick up a little 1-0 lead. Clem starts getting a little nervous. He's like, geez Louise, I just 3-0'd this nerd. It ain't happening again, is it? I think A and B are going to be very fun.
I honestly
100%.
think even maybe Hero Marine could just straight up top the group in a pretty straightforward way. A lot of times I feel like the Korean Protosses kind of maybe underestimate Hero Marine a little bit, just kind of think that he's yeah, he's just a normal standard macro Terran player. I'm just going to do my normal thing and boom, easy peasy. But I mean Hero Marine just really can come out and just totally wipe some people if they're really not expecting it. Also, just to swing over back to Group D because Trap is in that group, and you did say that it should be just a Cyril Trap, advancement, and generally, yes, I agree. However, I mean, we kind of have to bring up that Trap has been kind of fucking not doing that great in these super global events the last couple times. He's been doing really good. He did TSL really well, but even that finals, don't really think he should have won realistically. He did really doing really good in the super tournaments, but like Katowice, of course, he just got, he dumpstered. The last season finals, even more so, honestly. I think this last season finals was actually more embarrassing than the Katowice one, because like he got queen walked 4 games in a row, and he was doing like the exact same build every time. He like didn't even try to like change what he was doing. It's like it's that like that phrase, like what's the definition of insanity, is like to do the same thing even though it's not working, like that kind of thing. So
That's not the saying, but okay.
it's something similar to that. Like I don't know, whatever.
The
You know what I
insanity is
mean.
doing the same thing over and over again without changing any of the variables.
Yeah,
With
like,
expecting
that's
different
what I
results.
said.
Expecting a different outcome.
Yeah.
That's the most important part of the saying.
Yeah, exactly. You knew, you could fill in the blanks. I was just providing context. Okay, whatever.
Okay.
Anyway, but like the the whole point is that Trap could actually still lose here. Like, I don't really think he would lose to Haas. Like, that would be terrible if he does lose to Haas. But like, I mean, Trap versus Serral, that's not exactly an easy matchup for him. Trap versus Down, he has beaten him in the past 2 super tournaments, but he's also lost to him in lots of other, like the smaller cups and stuff like that. So it's like, there's a world Trap does not get out of this group, and that's actually a very real world, and that does worry me. But yeah, just thought I'd bring that in there.
All right, guys. Well, that was a lot of esports. That was a lot of DreamHack. Hopefully, you guys are excited for the DreamHack Masters Fall that will kick off live from a brand new studio, actually, in Stockholm in a couple of weeks. I already mentioned the Q&A. That's still open. You guys can still submit a question. Before we hop into that, I obviously don't want to keep these guys on here forever. I do just want to have a little generic chitty chat. And Natey Poo, I want to kick things off with you, because Reddit is very confused about your life each and every single week. What are you doing, and why is he not commentating or streaming StarCraft anymore? Just talk to me, Nate. What has been happening in the life of Nathanias, and what's keeping you busy?
Yeah, well, I had some strong words about our map pool and the strength of Zerg at the end of 2019. I learned a lot from the many, 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 many comments that myself and my now fiance received at that time. So I put a bit of distance myself. I took a long break. I get really worked up when I play the game. It's true. I definitely have said a ton of dumb shit that I probably shouldn't have said over the years. And for me, the biggest way to avoid feeling that burnout has been to take that break. So I've still been doing tournaments and stuff. I've still been watching things. I've still been there, but for my mental health and because I'd rather have your guys' respect than be viewed as a clown or a monkey dancing in a cage. Personally, it's important for me that I can at least try to be a respectful person. So I just don't play StarCraft as much because I get really worked up about it. It's a stressful game. It's a fast pace, kind of a exciting sort of thing, and I want to be able to enjoy that. So I limit the amount of it that I do, because I don't ever want to be in that place where I'm just burned out, playing 10 hours a day and just saying things just to keep people watching. But other than that, yeah, no, my golden retriever is going to be 2 years old in another month. I spend about half my spare time with him. He's awesome, Lewis. He's amazing. I'm getting married next year, June, I think.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Where's that gonna happen?
We're a little nice little out in the country in Washington. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. My future uncle has they have a big property out in the woods with a barn and everything. So we're gonna do just something. We want to do something nice there. Yeah. And aside from that, yeah, I've been putting that time and energy into working on other things on my stream, and I've been casting some other stuff. I've been doing a lot more sports related things in the last year. I got a couple gigs I did with like the Green Bay Packers and the NFL Players Union, so that's been kind of exciting. That's something I've been working on and I'm hyped for. But yeah, other than that, hiking in the winter, it's like 110 degrees outside here every day now, so I don't go outside anymore. And the people that don't want to wear masks get into a lot of fights in Vegas. There's a lot of just random street fights that break out now. So mostly just been chilling and playing games.
How is living in Vegas? Like, do you like? Because I know that I would have the urge every second day. I'm like, I should take a look at the strip. Like, a cheeky spin has never hurt anyone. And then I'm obviously sitting in the dark crying, and I was like, I'm gonna have to stream 128 hours to make this back.
I'll give you. So, okay, this is actually a fun thing to talk about. There's some weird shit in Vegas. Okay, first of all, every gas station and every single bar and every grocery store has a dedicated space for gambling. Like you can go play slots at the grocery store. You like you want to go to Buffalo Wild Wings? The bars have like the video poker. It's everywhere. It's everywhere, and none of the places ever close. So that's very weird. Where I'm like, oh, I'm gonna go to 7-Eleven. I just want to pick up some beers or chips or whatever. And then there's like 8 Buffalo Gold machines with a wall, like half wall around them. You're like, you could just do that anywhere in the whole place. I'm still not used to that. And people drive really crazy. We were coming back from the movies, I think last week, and like a Fast and Furious style, some car with neon lights under it pulls up in the fast lane. Another guy just pulls up right next to him, and we're just sitting there driving on the right side. We're just like, what the hell is going on? Both these guys crank their mufflers really loud, and they just fucking start zooming down the highway at 9 o'clock. I'm like, well, I'm glad they're in front of us. But yeah, that's about how I describe the Vegas experience.
When it comes to streaming, you've mostly just been doing a bunch of other games, right? I know you play a lot of League. Do you want to talk about how that's going? How's the MMR, or what division are we in, and what heroes do we play? And do you have any hopes and dreams? Like, because I always looked at you, Nate, and I think you actually are a very good commentator. Like, just the natural ability you have as to speak. So this doesn't apply to being a StarCraft commentator or whatever. I do really believe that if you would have the opportunity to truly work a big League of Legends event, that I think a lot of the League community would be very fond of you. Are those hopes and dreams alive, or do you think it's impossible to break into that?
I don't really think that that's something that, and I don't think that's an opportunity that would ever come my way, but that's not, for me, that's like, if that happens down the road, great, sure, whatever. I love casting. Like I've done a lot of different games over the last like 4 or so years now, almost all the major titles, probably except that one. But I think I hadn't played like ranked before. So I started in January in Iron 4, which is the lowest possible rank in the game. I think I've been bouncing around like gold 3 to 4. I got up to 2 for a little bit, but it's been nice because a lot of the mechanics, at least in my opinion, transfer from StarCraft. The game's very responsive. The units turn quickly, stuff like that. That's why I like that game anyway. But my goal is to just try and get good at something else, because it's hard to, without, especially with the burnout thing with StarCraft, it's hard to beat my peak, right? Like, do I really realistically think that I'll do better than my best that I've done in that? Probably not. So seeking that challenge in other places has been exciting and fulfilling, because I've come a long way, but I've still got a long way to go. I'm like, oh, I want to hit diamond by the end of the year. At this point, probably not going to happen, but it's been a fun journey to try and make that happen. And yeah, like I said, I've been trying to do hosting and casting for a lot of other stuff, and hopefully that picks up once the pandemic stuff's over.
All right. I think it's awesome to hear a little bit about what has been keeping you busy. Maybe people will stop posting about it now. I highly doubt it. There's definitely going to be another one. Zombie
Maybe
Grub, I know
someday.
that you still obviously stream a insane amount of StarCraft, but you also work on a lot of side projects. There's a lot of different things that I feel in general you're passionate about. You've done a podcast for a while, Zombie Grub with the Brain. You do Drunk Zombie Grub that people keep spamming in my channel. Look at Zombie Grub casting StarCraft Drunk. What's up, Jazz? What is entertaining you? And what are the goals and hopes and dreams and everything?
That's a big question. That one guy, by the way, like had just seen my video for the first time because I played it during an ad break. Obviously, like a longtime fan. Yeah, I'm gonna get back into the podcast and start communicating with people again, just because I really enjoy it. And there's not a lack of esports commentators to talk to. So it's actually I found it very rewarding as far as just what I like talking about, but then also as far as like connections being made. I can positively say that I have more, connections and opportunities to DM people who are like, really, really in the scene, I guess, or very cool than ever before. And then, yeah, continuing to stream. I did a Valorant gig, kind of came out of nowhere, but it's like I don't even know what the equivalent would be in StarCraft, but it's almost the equivalent of like a qualifier for challenger, because there's like VCT, then there's VCT Game Changers, which is the Women League, which is a lot of them can't make it into VCT, but they can do the VCT Game Changers, and then VCT Game Changers has VCT Game Changers Academy, who can't make it into Game Changers, much less into the main VCT. And that's what I cast, and it kind of came out of nowhere, but the organization they work with is a group of people that I've been hanging out with and learning how to cast Valorant. So they offered me the gig, and they even paid, which was quite amazing. They paid right after I invoiced them, which is also very amazing for esports.
And very unique.
What's that like?
Yeah, it was pretty crazy, man. So that was actually a very positive experience. The amount of work that they put into all this stuff is like insane. And they gave a lot of opportunities to up and coming commentators. So I was the most experienced one commentating wise, but I'd only know so much about Valorant. So not really any like hopes and ambitions to like cast like big league Valorant. Just something that I find fun and interesting. And if I fall into it, then that'd be great. But I actually don't really have too many plans and hopes and dreams right now. Pretty much my hopes and dreams are to get back in normal swing of things and feel reinvigorated, which is happening with more traveling and more things opening up. But, I felt like everything that I had been like really passionate about in February 2020 kind of got suppressed, I guess. And so just trying to work back up to a standard, which it's been going all right. It's okay. I don't know if there's any other questions.
I mean, if Zombie Grub is okay, then I'm okay. And obviously, guys, feel free to talk with each other as well. This doesn't have to be Roddy ask a question and now somebody answers. If there's anything that stands out. Gemini, I don't know if you listened to me. I think it was last week actually on the Pylon show, and I had a little chat with RotterdaM, and I forgot who else was joining us. Todd. Todd. We were basically talking a little bit about the Korean scene, and RotterdaM didn't totally agree with me, but I sometimes feel that the Korean scene, like I don't want to use the word dead because that's too dramatic and that's too lame, but it feels like there's not a whole lot that comes out of the Korean StarCraft 2 scene that reaches me. And I also know that I'm partly to blame for it because I'm not going out of my way to look at different channels, to look at content. But do you agree that there is a lack of content coming out of the Korean StarCraft 2 scene compared to the European scene? And do you think there is a way to get people, maybe, including myself, a bit more excited about everything SC2 Korea related?
I think it's, I don't know, it's kind of weird because like there is the whole like overarching thing where it feels like there's not that many players in Korea because just in general the server population is lower than all the others, which makes actually the MMR boundaries like super messed up, which is actually hilarious. The MMR boundaries right now for Korea are like the most effed I've ever seen. To get into Masters 1, you need 5,400 MMR.
That's good.
It's hilarious. It's hilarious. You literally get promoted from Masters 2 to GM on Korea because the MMR boundaries are so messed up. But like, there's not that many people, so it does definitely kind of feel like you kind of see some of the same faces all the time, which is kind of what it is basically. But I think there's actually like a lot of stuff. Like the amount of like Alpha X invitationals, the amount of like Africa like World, like I know Laughing Games does that and stuff like that too. With like Falcon Paladin and stuff. So like there's actually a lot of these like little mini invitational things that are happening almost all the time, it feels like, that are actually happening a lot. The ESL Korea Cups obviously are there too. And then, GSL in general. I feel like there is a decent amount of it. It's just the time zone thing probably is kind of hard because like it, you can't cater to every single time zone.
Mm-hmm.
And it does feel like a lot of those different casts, you kind of get bumped around. There's no, there's so many of them, like the Alpha X ones, especially, like there's like so many different like leagues and different type of invitationals. They all have their own like specific names and stuff. It's actually really hard to kind of organize and just like watch all of them. And they're sometimes even on different streaming platforms. Like they do it sometimes on Trovo, some on Africa, some on Twitch. So like they're really all over the place sometimes. So if you're not just like watching the TL sidebar, you will miss a lot of that. so I think the biggest thing that I have is, I don't know if many other people do this, but I've literally had this ever since 2010, where Team Liquid is just always up on my browser, because I just use the sidebar to know when anything is happening. And so that has usually almost always those different invitationals and stuff like that, because especially like the smaller ones, those people want to definitely make sure their stuff is seen. So those things will always be there. So if you feel like there's like, you're not seeing a lot of Korean stuff, it might just be time zone, but it's also, I mean, it might benefit people out there if you want to just like keep the TL calendar open, or just have Liquipedia open and just kind of refresh that and just kind of go through that a little bit, because there actually is, there is a lot of stuff from Korea. The Koreans do kind of just like playing and stuff, other than, you know, like the Maru, the Rogue, the Dark. But even Rogue has been playing some of these invitationals and stuff lately, so it's like,
Okay,
there's a lot of it.
I can get behind all of that. There's a bunch of tournaments happening, but I feel like it's online tournaments. There is some money. It's all over the place on different platforms. I'm still not like going to bed right now. I'm like, tomorrow I'm waking up and watching Off X. I'm sure that it's awesome what they're doing. I am happy to see that there are tournaments, but I want a little more. Why can't I have a regular Friday night Gemini drinking with a Korean player while laddering? No, but that's awesome and cool, unique content. You guys all live in the same city. How is there no Korean equivalent of a home story cup?
That was actually something that Solar was like sort of flirting with the idea. He actually did a couple of invitationals with this other sponsor guy that I was kind of also helping a little bit, but then I played in it. It was like an Archon like Pro-Am tournament thing. I don't know if anyone noticed this. It's called the Solar Supreme League. We did 2 of them, which had like kind of that the closest vibe to that, where it's like just some kind of different kind of tournament with some different style to it, basically. And then Solar was also casting it. So for anyone that likes watching Solar speak English, because his English is really funny. But yeah, it's like, I don't know that I think a lot of it also, like Alessandro also just mentioned in chat, was that No Regret, when his team house was here, was going to do a lot of that kind of stuff. He was going to try to do bring that kind of thing over and do a lot of content with that. So like the whole COVID thing really messed a lot of things up, and right now it's just hard to kind of get people together to do those things. And for whatever reason, it seems like the Koreans right now just don't really want to stream as much as they kind of were like a year and a half ago. I felt like, because I felt like there was like a point in time where I would be able to just like put up like, you know, Hero stream, Classic stream, Zest stream, like all these different people that were just like always streaming all the time. But it's like they seem to like, they don't want to stream as much anymore. Solar was also doing a lot of streaming for a while, but then he's kind of like, okay, I got nuked at IEM and now I don't want to do this anymore. Like, it's too annoying. Like, I don't know. It's I can't tell you because I'm not the actual Korean, so like I don't know exactly. It's kind of like Parting is the one doing the main content. And he like is kind of driving it, but the others just feel like they just don't want to.
But
Especially to keep to go on that actually again, is that like a lot of people also say that Koreans like never use social media and stuff like that. Like it's always would be cool if, you know, like Koreans were using Twitter and stuff like that more. And like I've talked to like some of them, like Trap and some other players. They literally just are like, I just don't want to use it. Like they literally will just say that. Like, I just don't want to do that.
Well, that I can get behind, because I don't think they need to use Twitter. Twitter sucks. But I still think if they're all live in the same city, I feel like you guys could do something different rather than organize another online tournament with $100 and people play a bunch of best of 3s or best of 5s. Doesn't really excite me. I feel like there is always potential and an opportunity, and I know you do try to think outside of the box and come up with creative ideas, but do you agree with some of my sentiment, or would you say, no, Roddy, that's just because you live in Europe, different time zone, we're doing the same stuff as the Europeans or Americans are doing?
No, yeah, I think that we definitely need to have something else more. Again, it's just the COVID thing really did mess a lot of that up, because I think it was going to start to kick off if No Regret was still here with the team house, and because he was literally trying to actually get like a Korean home story cup thing happening, and then it just, of course, never was able to go through. But I think like some of that stuff definitely is needed. I think especially even just during like GSL, when they have those break time clips of like the back room, like the people, I don't know if you've seen those, but they have like just interviews of just people like talking, like shooting the shit in like the green room and stuff like that of the players and stuff. Stuff like that is awesome, and I love that, and I think it's so good in the group nomination or the group picks. If you guys have never seen those things, those are so fun and hilarious. The pros are just always talking shit to each other and stuff. It's really fun. But stuff like that definitely I think does need to happen. It's just that it's hard to get it to happen because the pros are pros and they don't want to do things besides play video games. And I mean, right now it's just a hard time for it because of the whole COVID thing. It's just hard to get people together, and there's no centralized place because Korea. Yes, we all live around in the same city for the most part, but like finding a place that we can all go to do something like this is hard because Korean apartments and Korean houses and stuff are super tiny. It's really hard to actually get something like that organized. It's tough. So the logistics of it is not there, and there's no one trying to do it. I would love to try and do something more with that. It's just that I don't have the time to do it. It's like that's why I also can't even do like some of my own stuff that I want to do, like doing videos or like the build write-ups and stuff. I just like don't have time to even be able to do it with work and stuff.
I see. I mean, I guess I can't expect you to carry everything, but it would be
I could
fun.
if I would, but
So you say you're busy. What's other than working? What's keeping you so busy? What does a StarCraft 2 nerd that moves to Korea do every single day?
well, work is most of it. Teaching English is it takes up a lot of my time. I was rushing doing like my grading for essays and stuff to finish before to get on here. So it's mostly work, but even when it's just not doing work related stuff, it's just experiencing doing stuff in a different country, stuff like that. I do need some time like away from StarCraft. I've noticed recently where it's like I will get kind of burnt out if I do it too much for too long. Similar to like what Nate was saying, how it's like I do just kind of want to just take a step back. Right now I'm pretty back into it again. I feel like I'm playing a lot and kind of enjoying playing, but sometimes I'll just be like playing Valorant and stuff like that. Or I picked up doing like skateboarding again recently after not doing it for forever. So it's just like doing whatever stuff. The travel, I wanted to be traveling around Korea a lot, of course, but the pandemic has ceased all operations on that. So it's like I'm basically gonna be, whenever this is finally done, I'm gonna just like restart my plan of what was supposed to be happening, like going all of these different places, and seeing the different country and stuff like that. My parents were gonna come and like visit and stuff like that, which is really cool. But so yeah, that's kind of, I'm just kind of trying to find anything to keep me company, or to keep me busy, I should say. If there's if I just want to take a short break from StarCraft related stuff, anything like that.
All right. Well, I enjoyed hearing updates of you guys. Seems like you guys are very shy whenever I ask a question, and it's just one by one. There's allowed
How
to
are
give
you
some
doing, Kev? How are you doing? Have you
I'm
watched?
doing
Kev, have
fine.
you seen any good
What
shows?
is your
Have you seen a
plan?
movie lately? Tell me, have you seen any good shows or movies? You got a favorite new
Yes,
album?
I've seen too many shows, mate. What did I say? I've actually been watching mostly podcasts lately, but I finished like every somewhat decent show, like even all the teenage shows on Netflix. I have too much time at home right now. No, that's not really what I meant with it, guys. I did have one more thing. I was like browsing around yesterday. I'm taking a look at Pig's stream, and I see Pig is doing a Bronze to Grandmaster League. Now, I feel like this is edition number 87 across the board. Obviously, Vibe has done a whole lot. Some people love him, other people hate him. There are a few more streamers out there. I don't really want to mention them by name, but some of them have done a ridiculous amount. I'm talking like 10 plus kind of series, and everyone is doing it. I get triggered when I see people doing another Bronze to Grandmaster League series. Am I the only one?
Yeah, maybe.
No, well,
Definitely not.
this is something that as I've branched out, this is like a thing in almost every game, because you want to. There's
Yeah.
so many people that are like, oh yeah, I want to play only one game and stream this forever, but some days are hard, some days are better. But there's a really easy way to just always make it a good day. You boot up a new account, you can't lose. Everybody in chat rallies behind you, and all you do is win. So everything you say is,
Well,
immediately accepted as 100% fact, and there's no better way to do it. And it's like McDonald's for stream viewers, right? You just get to tune in and watch somebody beat the shit out of people the whole entire day with no real risk at all, and it's easy to do. So, do I blame them for taking the money to do it? No. But yeah, I'm personally not a fan of it, and I've only ever done one thing like that, because I was like, yeah, if you want to see how you could deal with some weird stuff in the early game at a low level, sure. But I did it once, like 6 years ago, and that was it. And I'm like, I don't know how you could sit there and be like, yeah, I'm just gonna beat the crap out of noobs and justify it by saying I'm teaching people.
Zombie Gruff.
yeah, let me defend it for a second. I've never
Yeah.
done it, and I don't think I would want to do it. Because the thing is, okay, first of all, Pig did this because it was a sub goal.
Yeah, but why is it a sub goal? That's like
Because people want it. Because people keep asking him to
People
do
want
it.
it.
So he's like, I'll only do it if I reach a certain sub.
All right, Zombie Grub. If I can play 7 ads tomorrow and the people won't leave my stream, I'll do a Bronze to Grandmaster League series. Like that's silly.
I don't understand why though. Like if everyone is saying like, Roddy, please do this because Pig's like
Yeah,
whole
I won't do
identity
it.
and brand.
I absolutely won't do it.
But okay, that's your decision though.
Yeah.
But like because the reason that this is generally accepted is that because Vibe set the standard that it's not just I'm going to dominate these guys and laugh about it. He's at the standard because he actually like loses some of his games because he, intentionally locks his mechanics and knowledge. And that's how he
I
teaches
hate
it.
that argument so much because in the end of the day, he will always be in control whether or not he wins or loses the game. Just because he handicaps
Sure.
himself and he doesn't try hard, that doesn't change anything for the other guy. The other guy is not in control whether he wins or loses. The Bronze to Grandmaster League streamer
Okay.
is always in control.
I guess for the like just the idea that like this is so pervasive that it's a problem. I guess I just don't agree with that. Like Vibe does it every so often, and he does it with like the different races. Pig's doing this because a lot of people like it because his whole brand is teaching people, and a lot of people they really like following along. Like there's tons of posts that will go on the subreddit and be like, hey, I'm at this point in Vibe's Bronze to Masters, and I just don't understand how it's working or not working. And people will come in and be like, well, here's the thing. Here's why he wins and you don't. And some of it's just like, oh, he's just better than you. But other people will be like, oh, well, you notice he did this and you didn't do that. And so Pig, like it makes a ton of sense that his audience would love for him to do it. But even he was like very hesitant for all the things that you guys are saying. But at the end of the day, I don't think this is so pervasive that like StarCraft 2 ladder experiences is just full of Smurfs looking to make content. Like I just don't think it's that big of a deal. It's that bad.
Oh, I don't think it's a big deal. I'm just saying that I get a little bit triggered when I see another person doing it because
does
we
happen a
we
lot.
only talk about Vibe, and sure, a lot of people really loved it. Some people got better. Now we talk about Pig, but what you guys don't know, and I see this too because I have too much time on my hands. There is like 12 other streamers with 3 viewers that are also doing it now because they think that this is their way to make the channel blow up. So it's not
Yeah.
just the big guys who are doing it. They are also inspiring content
Dozens
creators
of
that are
others.
not dozens, exactly. There are dozens out there, Zombie Grub.
But-
They're
but
meeting
how
each
many is
other in
that?
Bronze League. We've got Master versus Master happening in Bronze League because they're all trying to make no, okay.
Like 24 people.
It's like a
doing
hacker lobby
this.
in COD.
Yeah,
like-
but okay, you joke about that. You say like there's 24 people, but then there's 24 people playing 100 games. That is 2,400 games where people will get an unfair ladder experience because one person is way better than the other, and whether or not they handicap themselves. My entire point with all of it is that I think it's fucking lazy content, kind of like what Nate said, because yes, you are sitting there, you're winning almost all your games, every now and then you lose one to make the other guy feel good, whatever. What is stopping you from actually going out of your way and contacting a Bronze League player, another Bronze League player, and some Silver League players, and a couple, and then make like custom games and play against every single player in a certain league 2 or 3 times? The only thing that's stopping you is that it takes time and effort. But instead of taking that time and effort into making like an actual smaller but really good series through custom games, we have to beat up on irrelevant people that don't even want to be part of your series in the first place all day on ladder. That's why I'm triggered by it. I think there is a fair way to do it. I think there is a good way to do it. But we're always taking the easy way out and we're just laddering and beating up on 100 low-level players again. And I think that's messed up.
It would take it would take a long time. I mean, I think it's doable. It would take a long time and a lot of effort and a lot of advanced coordination. Like, I'm not disagreeing that it's a bit of like it's very simple and it's perhaps low hanging fruit, but I am disagreeing that it doesn't have like its merits. Like, people really love this. Like, people find this an excellent avenue to get into video games. That's why it's popular across all esports. Does it suck for the people who occasionally go up against the Smurfs, if you will? Because I mean, that's what they are. Yeah, I mean, it sucks for anyone, but like, I just don't think that it's actually so problematic. I guess is what I'm getting at. Like, you can do it once in a while and say this is content.
Is it a scourge that's ruining the ladder? Probably not, but you can't deny that, you know, when you're in that position, like Kev said, you're always in control. You don't have to give up any of your agency over the games unless you want to. if you don't have to have the, oh, I lost 3 games in a row to somebody who's better than me, and now I have to find a way to, not make it seem like I'm depressed, right? To the chat. No, oh well. Yeah, okay, we gave that guy a win. Now we're gonna put a little bit more gas on the next one, right? It makes it, it's just that much easier. And to what you said, I don't disagree that it has its value, and there are a lot of people who learn about it, and I see those posts that you're talking about. But I don't know about you, but I've never checked the StarCraft Twitch directory and not seen at least 1 or 2 people on the top half of the streamers that are doing this kind of thing. And I do think that it is incredibly lazy and cheap content that everybody has a million different reasons to justify, no matter what. You'll not. There's every single argument that defends these things is just somehow bulletproof, and it's always going too far to say that too many people are doing it or that we shouldn't be promoting it as much, right? There's literally no argument that anybody will accept about why it maybe shouldn't be done as much as it gets done. But yeah, that's why I personally not a huge fan of it. I think if you want to teach people, you can teach them at your level, or you can do an actual focused teaching stream. You can try to actually make content around it, make it a real series. You could make other types of content around it that go with it, like a podcast. There's so many different ways that you can make educational content. But to say, I'm just going to queue up on ladder and beat up random dudes that are, just getting back from work and they got 1 game of StarCraft they can play that night. Well, fuck you. You ran into Vibe when he decided he wanted to win that game. So your whole evening is completely wasted because you had time to play 1 game, right?
Like, I do think it's a bit easy to say, like, oh, like, there's always someone who's like, oh, I played against Vibe or Pig, and I thought it was awesome. But yes, for that story, there is also the other side of the coin, and I can talk from my own experience, where once upon a time, I was 1 game away from making 6,100 MMR for the first time in my life. And at that point, that is a really big deal to me on the ladder. I play against a 5-7 barcode. It's Phoenix against Phoenix, and I lose. And a day later, I'm on the Hearthstone's YouTube channel by beating Grandmaster Leagues with stupid stuff. It's Phoenix against Phoenix. I don't know what's stupid about that anyway in the first place, but I'm like, that's pretty fucked up. Like, first of all, you don't really agree to that, but second of all, it's like, it's really annoying for me because that game meant a lot to me. And for my situation, there is also people that run into a Pig or a Vibe, and that game means a lot to them, and they are not in control whether or not they win that game. So I think it's a bit easy to say, like, oh, some people don't mind. No, some don't. But sometimes it's actually really demotivating for people too.
This is actually, like, I guess I have no more thoughts or opinions on this. I don't really think it's the worst thing, but so be it. I don't pay attention to it that much. But this is an interesting point that you guys both brought up, in that people didn't consent to this. I actually think that's perhaps treading into dangerous territory. No one consents to any content that we do, for the most part. When we ladder and some guy's using his real name, or not his real name, but his usual ID, not like a barcode or something, and when we start talking about that guy in any shape or form, and then we post it on YouTube or we're streaming it on Twitch, he didn't consent to that. So I always find that part of it,
People
guess,
do
just
get
an
upset
interesting.
about that. Yeah,
it is, because it's a really broad topic, and it's not at all to do with Bronze Grandmaster. This is just something that was brought up during it. But this is like, it's a whole what's can of worms. There you go. It's a whole can of worms that I suppose content creators are always trying to configure and maneuver.
I guess that's a slightly different debate, but I still think that it's very easy to say, like, oh, so many people love it. But for a lot of people that love it, there are also people that generally stop playing because they are sick and tired of, like, their personal little milestones because they cannot play 8 hours a day. They get denied by running into Bronze to GM streamer after Bronze to GM streamer after Bronze to GM streamer. I generally know people that just stop playing because they didn't like it and they couldn't get that one promotion they were after. I think it's easy to say, like, it's good for the game when I don't really see any valid proof for it being.
There is tons. Like, there are amount of people that go into subreddit threads and are like, look at this Bronze to Masters.
Yeah, those are the same people that say that the Muslim stream is dying because he's banning everyone.
I could say the same people who say I'm quitting StarCraft because of this are also the same people who probably would have said I quit it because there's too much cheese.
But I'm talking from a person. I feel like we're accidentally coming to a different conclusion, which is that taking the majority of our data to justify our points from social media is just a giant shitstorm regardless, because the people who are most active on social media are not the sane, normal,
Yeah.
lovely kinds of folks that you're going to be like, oh, hey, I can't wait to meet this person at an event. They're going to ask me for an autograph. No, they're the people that are spending their whole days on social media, replying to every single thread and looking for opportunities to talk about the stuff that they're interested in, because that's mostly what they do. And I would be probably willing to bet that a lot of the posts where you see people mentioning these kinds of things are being posted by the same people. And the people that they talk to in those threads are also very similar to the other threads that they're posting in. And you'll
Well, that's
notice that
funny.
even though you may see it brought up a lot, there's only a certain number of unique accounts that are actually talking about these things in these places.
Yeah, but it's funny because then there's all these like hundreds of people who go on StarCraft, play a game, and have no idea whoever they face might have been a Smurf. They're never going to know, especially
Exactly.
if they're doing it correctly, which is like they're limiting their mechanics. And they're just going to go, oh, that sucked. Like that happens though, because that does happen. Like people in silver will face another silver player, and that silver player has like a better maxed out timing, but they suck at micro. And so they'll be like, this was a Smurf because this guy maxed out faster than I am. And it's like, well, you know, you throw a zealot at this guy and he's going to fucking crumble. So I don't know. As I said, I was kind of like, I think I said my opinion on this, but I feel like we kind of ignored the whole like content creation consent thing, like, which is actually kind of a big issue.
Yeah, no, that is a big issue.
Like,
but...
if would it have been better if Harsum had just not posted that content at all?
Oh no, it would have
defeated you.
I would have. Well, I don't know if I would have liked that a whole lot more, because losing against Harsum when he's 400 MMR below me and he's denying me from an all-time record still kind of sucks. But I would have liked to at least, I guess that's a barcode discussion, but I would have liked to at least know that it is Harsum. But yeah, that's obviously a completely different topic. Gemini literally eating popcorn at this point. I just think the one argument I think you can always make against it is that there is a way to do it through custom games, and then I am completely on board. I think it's awesome. Bronze to GM, play against people from every league, every rank. Just put a little time and effort into it instead of making a new account and having to play 100 games against people way below your level. Like, that's it.
Yeah.
And I don't see how people can fight back over that, other than that takes a lot of time and effort. Yeah, it's almost like that's what content creation is all about, guys. Time and effort.
I mean, we say that, but most of us just boot up a stream and ladder. It's actually the easiest content ever.
It is at a high level. It is not. If you think it's not the same to play at your fullest ability or at 95% of your level, instead of like do you know how easy it is to sit there and win 27 games in a row? If you talk about like that is that is next level easy.
Yeah, sure. It feels like we got into a point where it's like about the amount of time you put into this content, and I'm like, well.
The reality is people like it and people want to watch it, so streamers are going to keep doing it. From a moral standpoint, maybe slightly questionable. Could some of these folks do good for aim for variety a little bit more and still mix that type of content in? Is there ways to do it more differently? Sure. But the reality is, it's it's easy to get. You go through the drive-through, boom, you've got your nuggets and your Happy Meal. You've got everything that you want. It's the same thing every single time, and you get to go to sleep saying, "Oh, I love this. I can't wait to have more of it tomorrow." And that's just what it is.
I would actually.
So true.
I started this conversation off as saying I don't think I would ever want to do bronze CGM. Not even just because like the moral thing, which I would also be like bad feeling in my gut if I did it. So I'm like defending the people, but I'm also
you can't actually take the perspective of the person at the MMR of who you're going against anyway, because you have so much bias in your previous experience and your actual ability at the game.
I was just gonna, because I've never been bronze, but I was just gonna say like it just sounds really boring and really, really just like I don't want to sit there and replicate 80 APM. Okay, I already hate doing it in the co-op mutation where it's the minerals taken out if you move, like microtransactions. That's what it is. Like I think it sounds really uncomfortable.
For me, this would be a never-ending debate, because even that to me is meaningless. There are plenty of players that are very fast but are in low level because they don't know what they're doing, and then there are people who don't know what they're supposed to be doing, and they are just maybe really slow. So being like, okay, this hand I'm playing this game, I'll just use my mouse only, guys. Like I don't see how that's educational content either.
Well, the thing is like I think Vibe. And to be fair, I've not watched too many of these things, but like He would limit his APM, and he'd be like, the most common problem in this league is that they don't scout. So I'm
Yeah,
just
no,
not
he
gonna
does a
scout at
good
all.
job. I'll totally agree. I think that Vibe does do a good job with it. I still wish he would do it in custom games rather than on the ladder. But that's this. I already had this debate with Vibe a long time ago, and he just laughed. He's like, "I know you don't like it. That's okay. Agree to disagree." Obviously, his stream did really well because of it, and I like Vibe, and I obviously love Pig too. And I also saw Pig doing it. I was like, "Come on, Pig, can we really come up with anything else, mate?" But apparently. Sometimes we can't, and now it's gonna inspire another nerd and another nerd, and it is just gonna keep on happening.
I
Yeah.
do want to take this opportunity to perhaps make a more, what's the word, like productive discussion, or a more interesting discussion, which is that I do think that one of the points is that it brings people into StarCraft. One thing that I've been learning about getting into other games and other esports is just like how much I wish there were videos and content that existed for other esports, and how much I recognize like they don't really exist in StarCraft. So, looking up Valorant stuff, because it's still a big game, you have professional production from like IGN or something putting in like the top 10, best places to arrow dart from Sova or something. Really, really specific and really technical. And we definitely don't have that. Like, there's a lot of things that StarCraft 2 could do, I think, to be a more engaging content creation scene than what it currently
unreachable liberator zones.
Well, there's the
Ironically-
clickbait stuff. Absolutely.
Ironically, I literally just made a video like that, and I was
Yeah.
actually just thinking about how like something like that is what is kind of not seen in StarCraft, and I agree with that. I just made I like talked about on stream one time about like how to use like your hand with your keyboard or whatever, and like some tips of what you can do to do that better. And like I kind of realized that like a lot of the mechanics stuff, especially with StarCraft, of like how you're supposed to do stuff, it's all like bundled up in like giant hour-long videos or like multi-series things, like all the old Day 9 dailies and stuff like that. The vibe stuff is also really like a lot of just really long form content. There's not many of those just really short, simple cut and dry videos of saying, okay, these are some things that you can do and you can be better with that. Boom. So like I actually kind of want to start doing a little bit of that, like if I can find the time to do it, because I think it's actually something that could definitely be tapped into. Because I also have been playing some Valorant, and I can literally just Google YouTube like this, like a a lineup for this champion with this grenade or whatever like, and it just pops up. It's just a bunch of videos, and it's like it's just like all the information I need right there, really easily.
Yeah.
And like if I could try to find something like that for StarCraft, I don't think I can. I can't just search like how do I use my keyboard the best. There's like a million different things of saying like what you're supposed to do. They're all different lengths, different configurations of what exactly you're supposed to do, and like they all have these specific names and stuff like that. So it's like I think that I agree that is something that I think StarCraft is lacking, and I personally want to try to even maybe try to do some of that stuff too.
I think it actually kind of adds to the idea that StarCraft is like this elitist, like you have to be really into it to be into it, because all of the videos that you're going to find about getting better at StarCraft or improving or even how to are like hour-long, in-depth, detailed videos, or they're part of a stream. And the streamer just cuts, the hour in that stream that they were discussing this, and there's no editing or whatsoever. So kind of reminded me with the lazy content and things like that's actually a lot of StarCraft. I feel it's interesting, it's decent, but a lot of it is definitely lazy, because not many people, to be fair, are going to be making a ton of views and a ton of money off this stuff. But
That is true.
I think
it's
this is
definitely
something that I've been thinking about as well, like generally a lot too, is that a lot of the YouTube content, especially for StarCraft, and this is not, again, I'm not trying to like shit on anybody, because there's a lot of stuff that goes on, and like streaming takes a lot of time. It's like a lot of it is, like you said, just kind of cutting stuff off streams and just putting it on YouTube. And it's like when I'm someone that especially likes these edited style videos. The stuff that I would ever usually make is like the more long-term content, like edited stuff, like different things like that. I personally didn't. I literally asked on Twitter. I was like, should I even put this video up? Because it is basically just me ripping a thing from my stream and I just put like a little intro thing on it basically. And that was the extent of the editing. It's like, it doesn't feel like, to me at least, that it's like the best type of content, because it is just kind of taking it over and putting it up there. So it's like, I don't know what my point was going with this, but like I think that generally, like, yes, I think StarCraft can benefit from more of these types of more edited videos and content like that, even if it's not directly educational, but just generally, other just more well edited stuff. That's why I also like doing those, like I do like hype montage videos of different players or like my own plays and stuff like that, because that's something that is not existent in any form. No one does that in StarCraft anymore. Like there was a couple of them from way, way back that were really cool, but no one does that anymore. I think they're really cool videos, so it's like I want to do that, but it's not really something that you really find much. It's kind of just a lot of cut and paste stuff, but it's kind of what the streaming scene is right now for StarCraft, I guess. So, I don't know.
Like I think you touch on a very good point there, where if you do want to make the videos that I think we could all get behind that are very good, straight to the point, they would have to be edited. It takes a shit ton of time. And what's the return? It's very little. It's thank you for your contribution to the community. That's kind of it. So in a way, it makes more sense to just be live on Twitch for 10 hours and then upload 10-hour videos to YouTube, because yeah, that takes the least effort, but still you're also live, so you make some money like that. It's obviously not that easy to make spend insane amounts of time and perhaps money on a 30-minute video that then doesn't even do as well as you just lathering for 10 hours straight. I think that's a slightly different discussion. I had one more thing that while you were talking towards the end. Oh yeah, actually somebody in chat pointed this out, and I do really like that. It's like, what about just coaching someone? Like, I think that is completely fine, right? If you have an actual bronze player that would get coached and would get coached through the leagues, I think that's awesome content. But that's not the same as the guy that's already GM, starting in bronze again. Limitation, no limitation. Yeah, I mean, so it's a fun thing to talk about, because some people, they don't see the harm in it. Some people even love it. Some people hate it. Some people are a bit grossed out by it. Some people just don't give a rat's ass. That's the beauty of discussions. Want to say one more thing, Nate?
Yeah, my final thoughts on this are there is a good amount of controversy that comes from discussing these kinds of things, and there's controversy around these people's streams. You know, people harass Pig, people harass Vibe about doing this kind of stuff too, and they know about it. But the reality is, I think especially the last few years, content in general, controversy is what people are looking for. Outrage drives insane amounts of engagement. So you put on, you put on the act. You say, yeah, I'm lowering my level, whatever. You know that there are people that don't like it. You're going to get them to go out of their way. All the most popular stuff that gets put up everywhere, it's always some kind of drama. That's what people are looking for, especially with less things going on. People are looking for it even more. You don't see the wholesome shit get posted. You don't see the top on top of Reddit, Roddy shouting out a guy who resubbed for 80 months and pouring his heart out to this dude that's been watching him for, his entire fucking college degree. That doesn't get upvoted. People are like, oh, what a nice wholesome moment. No, they wait for Artosis to scream at some guy because he played Protoss or something, and that goes all the way to the top. And that's what people are looking for. If you want to make good, quality, wholesome content, it is hard. It becomes harder to find an audience for that kind of thing every day. So doing those things, it drives engagement. It's the same reason why, if you look at like sports reporting in the off season, it's mostly just bullshit, because the more incorrect what you say is, the more people come in to fight about it and talk about it, the more engagement metrics you have. Boom. If you say something that everybody agrees with, you're much less likely to get everyone going, yeah, look at this guy. He said the thing that's probably going to happen. Woo! It just doesn't. That's not how things work.
That was
All right.
not at all the rant I was expecting.
Yeah, I was not expecting that either, but it
People
makes
focus
sense.
on the negative.
So
It's very
reasonable,
true.
actually. That's
Yeah,
so
very
reasonable.
true.
Very true.
I just want that guy in the chat with 80 months to know that I do care, that he's been watching me throughout his entire college degree, and you are appreciated. I thought that was very well said, Nate. I don't want to keep you guys here forever. I really enjoyed talking to you guys about everything and nothing, but let's see if we have some Q&A. Cobra, reveal yourself if that's possible. If not, make the voice of God appear. Do you have some questions for us? And where can people submit questions in general?
All right, so I don't actually have a webcam, but if we go over to the pylonshow.com, there is a Patreon Q&A button right here. And if we click on this, it'll take us to a spot where we can upload questions. The reason we do it this way is so that people don't upload questions that are more than 300 characters in length. Otherwise, we'd keep the guests here for quite a few days. those then get posted to our Discord, where you can go look at them in advance if you wish. Here is our first one from Codiferous87.
I know that man, lovely supporter. After watching Cobra and Cell's podcast, Almost Essential, talking about streaming hardware, I got curious. Do you guys find and build your own stream setup? Who do you have turned to get help, advice when needed with hardware, room decor, lighting, etc.? I can go first, and then whoever wants to follow up can go follow up. I do always ask for help because I am an absolute tech disaster. I can't even build my own computer. So I actually met a guy. The TLDR of this is that once upon a time I organized a meetup. It's like, hey guys, if you're watching my stream, you want to have a beer with me, come to RotterdaM on this day. 20 people came. I met everyone, didn't know at that point. One guy is very nice. He's like, hey, I hear you talk about your computer. You want to get a new computer? I was like, yeah. It's like, you need help? I was like, yeah. Just met him for the first time ever. He helped me build my computer. Eventually, he started helping me with everything. His name is Breugeltje. So, dude that I never met before became one of my best friends in a way, where he always helps me out with tech stuff. When it comes to slightly more advanced streaming stuff that he couldn't quite help out with, I and many others in this industry reached out to Ep.138. Ep.138 is an absolute legend. Takes time and effort out of his day for everyone, and he helps everyone making stuff better. So that is my story. Whoever wants to go next can go next.
I do everything on my own.
Whoa.
There's
What a flex.
Boom.
But yeah, Up-A-Tree Zelda's nuts. Like, literally knows everything about anything that has electricity running through it. It's like actually insane. So like, he's so nice about it too. Like you can just go and ask him about. It's so funny because he just loves talking about it. You can just go into his chat and just be like, yo, there's this like whatever mic like I want, but it's like, what about this one? Do you think it's good? And he will just give in the middle of a ladder game, like literally microwing like whatever in some like 25-minute TVZ like Turtle Fest or whatever, and he's just like, yeah, this one, this mic, and he lists you like 50 different mics and stuff like that. Like Sal is awesome. If you need anything related to that, that's definitely the spot to go. That's where I went to upgrade like my mic and stuff like that multiple times. Just random streaming things if like something's not working or whatever. Like Sal is just he's the best. He really is.
Yeah, he's good. Sal is someone that I consult with a lot when I'm looking at stuff. I do all my own setup things, but I do like to bounce ideas off of other people that I know about as much as me or more, right? And I think Sal, he has a way better understanding of audio stuff, so he's someone I 100% go to for that. But yeah, stream setup wise, I'm a nerd. I read about silicon wafers and fabs and all that crap, so I'm very into it, and yeah, I like maintaining my own setup a lot.
All right. Well, I know that you also helped me in the past, Nate, when we used to live together. Without you, I would have been lost a few times. I suck at tech, guys. I'm happy that I know how to press some buttons in StarCraft, lift some units, and press how to go live. And I know when something is broken, that's when I get really upset. But I don't make really any improvement. When it comes to decor, that's when I let my own creativity shine a little bit. I'm like, I want the battle cruiser, I want the carrier, but yeah, cameras, microphones, all of it. Yeah, take a look at Ep.138. The dude is amazing, knows everything. Do we have more questions, Mr. Cobra?
We do.
Sick. Nachtkap. How come there are still so few storm drop kind of plays during big fights? Does the big range of Harpoon, Viking, Tempest too risky for reward, or keeping high value units safe, or is it something else? I kind of feel like we do see a lot, but that's just my opinion, Zombie Grub.
Yeah, I feel like we still see it a decent amount. I guess it kind of has to go back to like, is Storm that great as a go-to, which it kind of isn't so much. Like it's far less popular than just like upgraded gateway units or Colossus builds. Showtime, even big Protoss who like rarely ever gets Storm. And then I would say like, yeah, it's actually just part of the reason maybe is that while the Warp Prism Storm is very good, it is very difficult to control. And once those Terrans put one Viking in their army, it's suddenly just, it's like people think one Spore Crawler against a medevac drop doesn't help, but it's actually the most annoying thing to have to circumvent and protect against. And it's actually a very difficult thing to do.
I think it's also a lot just the general meta switch, like for a decent port of Legacy for like in like 2017, like 2018, there was a lot of fast storm openings and a lot of fast storm PVT especially, but especially with EMP, the upgrade that got added however long ago, that just kind of switched stuff in general. So like you just don't see Storm as much. You'll still see people do it, and basically any time that someone gets Storm, especially in PvT, you're seeing it being dropped from a War Prism. Like there's it's very rare that you are going to Storm in PvT and then you don't have the little ferrying going on unless it's like mega late game. But like that still happens a lot. Storm drops are something that I used to love back in Heart of the Swarm, Wings of Liberty, especially since Liquid Hero was the guy that was doing that a lot. So it was like really fun to watch. But it's honestly just like not as worth it because you can just send 4 Zealots to a mineral line and they're killing more SCVs than the Storm drop does. Because a lot of times the people just kind of pull the SCVs away anyway, and you get like 4 SCVs for like, you know, two Templar and a War Prism that might even die. So it's like it's just not even worth it sometimes. But I feel like you definitely still see people doing the Storm drops on the armies pretty regularly. I see people do it in PvZ. Watching it in PvZ is really fun because you'll see people just like carpet bomb like Ravager Baneling armies and stuff like that, and that's like, oh man, that gets me going in certain ways. But like PvT, I think it still happens pretty regularly. I feel. I don't know.
Yeah, I think people gave up on the storm drop when the #1 storm drop of all time happened a long, long while back in the Heart of the Swarm beta. I don't know if you guys remember. I think it was he was still kind of up and coming Dutch Protoss player.
This meme.
Had some. I think it was a mineral trap back in the HOTS beta.
Entombed.
And killed.
Entombed. Yeah.
With one storm, killed like something like 20 drones. And I really feel like we peaked on the storm drops back then, and it's never really been the same. Since that happened.
Is that still on YouTube? Actually,
They
we
say
can
the
show
volume
that.
I think it was a GIF on Reddit. I
There's a
remember it being on
Protoss
Reddit.
Rosetta Stone somewhere that can find that video.
Oracle Storm Baller Drop Entombed. Let's see if we can just play that on the show as we take a look at.
I have it right here. RotterdaM's Oracle Storm Drop. First hit
Yeah.
on Reddit 8 years ago. I'll link it.
All right. So for the people who are new to StarCraft, once upon a time, the Oracle had an ability where it could freeze force or mineral patches,
no.
so you couldn't mine from
The
it.
GIF is dead.
The GIF
GIF
is
is dead.
dead. All right. The TLDR is that instead of freezing all of them, I froze all but one, which meant that all the drones immediately clumped up to the only mineral patch they could mine from. And that's when I also unloaded my War Prism and dropped the Storm. And I basically had the coolest Storm of all time. Thank you, Nate, for bringing that back into our memories. Love it.
That was good. That's a good one to bring back.
Moving on, who else other than Apollo would you also wish to invite to interview to the Pylon show? I'd love to see Kim Fan talking about how she got into the gaming industry and esports manager. Kim Fan would be amazing, but I actually don't like. I know Kim moved away from Blizzard a long time ago, and I know that she works somewhere in LA. I actually don't know what Kim is doing exactly at the moment. What I can tell you is that Kim Fan used to be just a Warcraft 3 community member, actually. She used to upload audio podcasts and run a website called wcreplays.net. So she was just a passionate individual in the Warcraft 3 community. Then she started doing well, so she kind of started her own little team. And then I think she actually started as a software engineer for Blizzard, and then just kind of ended up at the esports team eventually. And Kim is just a real boss lady. She's awesome. Gets respect from everyone. I've never seen anyone act out of line to Kim Fan. And I think that she just kind of worked her way up. But I'd love to have Kim once, but I think that's kind of hard time zone wise. And Kim Fan is also very busy. But that's my best story of how Kim Fan ended up being the esports manager for as long as he was. Who would you guys like to see on the Pioneer Show? Zombie Grub.
Oh, I wish I had time to think.
Obama.
One of Obama's thoughts on esports and StarCraft 2 in particular. Actually, you know what? I have been thinking about this. Not a specific person, but I do wish that there is more cross-contamination of esports people. Like so many, all talk shows are just the same people in the community. And that makes sense for when it's a very community like centric thing. Like don't bring on a StarCraft person to talk about the Overwatch League results. But you know, if you want to bring on a Overwatch League person to talk about StarCraft 2's, and I guess Blizzard in general, like issues of handling stuff, and you know, there's actually some shared stories there. I think that could actually be very interesting.
Yeah, that's a really good way of looking at it too. I mean, Especially, I think that that's something that is always kind of difficult with esports. Is everybody's kind of sequestered in their own spaces. I love that video so much. But yeah, like imagine if we were having the discussion around content, for example. How do we make better content? And bringing in somebody from a different scene that either has a similar thing going on, or maybe they're in a better place, right?
Yeah.
I think Intero's a really well spoken, good Rainbow Six Siege commentator. He's a cool guy. I've had drinks with him at a few events. Like, I don't know, maybe I'd like to hear his thoughts on what a better way to make engaging content that people want to watch that doesn't have to prey perhaps on other people's experience in the game as much.
We need to get some Koreans on here. Get some Korean in-depth opinions about the StarCraft scene and stuff like that. They get like Solar on here. Like that would be pretty cool, I think. But I feel like we don't hear much from the Koreans in general, just about like the more intricacies of what's actually going on, other than just like, yes, thank you, fans, I win game and very good, and I feel nice, thank you. Like other than that, we don't really see much, so it'd be pretty cool. I know like Crank every now and then like does like brings like a player on stream and they like just like talk about stuff every now and then, but it's full in Korean, it never gets translated, so it's that's kind of sucky. But it would be cool to have a couple of Koreans just come on every now and then, and with a translator or whatever, and then actually kind of grill them a little bit, like the old what was it, Thorin that did those, or like the grilled videos
Yeah.
or whatever, like really
Yeah.
something like that could be kind of cool, just to really see what some of these Koreans feel with the way StarCraft's been lately and stuff like that. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. I mean, but then it doesn't necessarily have to be like a 3 or 4-way Pylon show. It can also just be some weeks if there's not much happening, a one-on-one. Like some people in the chat, and I don't even know if they're trolls or not because I have this guy muted. But sometimes I'm curious and I see his message. He's like, "Get live." And even though that's a messed up thing, in a way, I gotta say it would be very interesting to have like a 2-hour sit down with live and like see what he's up to, hear his story, hear it from his side. I would actually be very interested. So yes, I would.
Yeah.
I would actually like to do that interview, I'll be honest, but I
It
have
would be
no
sick,
idea.
but it's never gonna happen.
No, it's probably never going to happen, but it would be very interesting. It would honestly be kind of sick. But yeah, thank you very much for your question. Thank you very much for supporting the Pylon Show over at our Patreon. If you guys want to support the Pylon Show, if you appreciate what we do, take a look at the Patreon button below my stream. You can click on it. Money goes to Cobra, a little bit to me if we have left over. We try to pay our guests. We try to just keep this thing going, basically. So far, it's been a lot of work. Very little green money. Benjamin's heading over my way, so it's all passion, guys. Next up, Milo SC2. Do you think that pros openly balanced whining affects the perception of the public in the scene? What are your current perceptions of the state of balance after watching DreamHack and the lackluster performance by Protoss? This was the best Protoss performance we ever had. Excusez-moi, by the way. And your immediate answer is 100% yes. If Gabe and the Muslim would all day long say that Terran is favored against Protoss, people would actually believe it. And they'd be like, man, those poor Protoss players. They never have a deep run. They never make it deep into the tournament. They never win. They haven't won a GSL since 2007. They would feel for us. So 100% yes. That's just my opinion. Zombie Grub, Nate.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. I mean, perception is people don't just watch their content because they want to get better because they're just good at the game for no reason, right? There has to be some thought process behind what makes them good and an understanding of the game, and people give a lot more credibility to higher level players for their opinions on such matters. And I think you're 100% right, because the Protoss hate is just absurd, right? When you think about, I don't know, result wise, right? Like, oh, we finally have a European Protoss player going top 4 kind of thing, right? And people are like, is it overpowered because that happened? If everybody says it is, then yeah, the perception will become that. But if everybody was like, yeah, Protoss doesn't win any of these EU things, it never happens. Like, Protoss sucks. If everybody started saying that, everybody would believe it, because, it turns out that the things that people say usually is meant to push the opinion towards favoring their interests, right, rather than somebody else's. It doesn't benefit all the Terrans and Zergs to come out and be like, yeah, guys, Protoss actually never wins Europe. I don't know why everyone says they're OP.
I think it
But
affects.
did you know the lower level in GM is full of Protoss?
I was gonna say, like, I think it absolutely affects like how people talk about the professional scene. If they can be like, look, those pros say that. But I feel like if suddenly Marine Lord, Hero Marine, and Beyond, I don't know, something, right? Or like Terran's actually pretty good, guys. Stop hating on the Protoss. I think people would stop hating on professional Protoss, but I feel like all the comments would be like, oh, I see your point. Yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah, definitely. But also, like, fuck Protoss when I play against them. Fucking Storm Drops, fucking Colossus. Like, there's just something innate about, I think, Protoss that makes it feel like their wins are cheaper. Like, I don't, maybe it's chicken and egg situation, but a lot of the perceptions have already been built up by our play. So just get added when you watch streamers.
A beautiful man had a great rant about that a long time ago. Something to do with fucking lasers, I believe.
They just have these laser beams that look so fucking cool, and every time I see it, I get jealous because it reminds me that I drive a 2006 Honda Accord and not a 2021 Cybertruck. God damn
it! All right, thank you guys. Do we have another one, Mr. Cobra? Ravi, good old Fear Dragon. Hi, Artel says, great job with the GSL cast. What are the show topics for today? Really looking forward to the show. Nate, where have you been? I think we covered that. Zombie, I actually don't know this one. So, Zombie Grub, will you stream Age of Empires?
No, not will you. When will you? When is it coming, ZG? It is coming, right?
I tried streaming it. I tried getting into it, and I just like I legitimately tried, and I was like hour after I was like, I just don't like this game that much, guys. I don't see myself getting into it. So no, I'm not gonna stream Age of Empires 2.
Did you see that show match I did with Raynor and Cero?
Yeah. I saw the Red Bull stuff. Yeah, they cut it and diced it up. I mean, I respect Age of Empires, and as far as like I like playing all RTSs, but as far as like training for an RTS, right, like learning build orders and being competitive, there's a reason StarCraft is the only one I've really done. Let's see how Age of Empires 4 looks.
All right. Hi, Dylan. Great job casting Code A this season. I guess that's one's for you, Gemini.
Yes, thank you, Ravi. I'm glad you enjoyed it. And sorry that my maybe I wasn't fully up to date with everything, but I tried my best.
Hey man, at least you didn't forget to research Graviton Catapult, mate.
That is true. I mean, I do make sure to get that every game. It's very important.
I mean, Roddy, does the fusion core have to be made to get the liberation range?
Well, yes, advanced, but no, that wasn't it. It was hyperflight rotors. And I thought you need a fusion core for hyperflight rotors, but you don't.
No, they got rid of that requirement when they doubled the research time.
I mean, better.
Nate is fully aware. He's a mastermind of that particular.
No, I know that they moved.
That's a fun strategy to still do. Speed Banshees are fun.
Yeah. If you don't have Phoenix, they're a nightmare to play against, man. I know that they moved advanced ballistics back then from the tech lab to the fusion core, which obviously is useful because then you can still build 2 lips at a time and get the upgrade. But hyperflight rotors is so irrelevant. I was like, do you need a fusion core? I mean, it's pretty good. Maybe you do.
I love how much you and Wardy, that entire cast, were making each other doubt themselves. Yeah. That was also like right after your prediction thing.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Fair Dragon, for showing some love to the Pylon show. We love you, and I hope you know that. We have another one.
Being used.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. Red Gunner Guy. There have been complaints about the DreamHack format. I think we kind of covered that. Alternate, we definitely covered that. Sorry, matey, but yeah, just take a look at the beginning of the show. How does one get good in SC2? How does get good SC2 translate to other areas in life?
Oh,
I have a little answer for that one. And then we have Nate, Doc, Zombie Grub Cats. And I don't know if Roddy has a pet. Roddy doesn't really have a pet, but Roddy does have Rico and Rhonda. Look at his face, guys. Isn't that the best face? That is the best face.
No.
So I spent a lot of time with those. I don't really have a serious answer, but this is one of my... Sometimes you see something in your life and you just never forget it for the rest of your life. And a long time ago, they made a Warcraft 3 documentary. And one of the guys that was starring in the documentary was Madfrog, who was one of the very first Swedish pro gamers who ever went to Korea to compete with the Koreans, came back. And there was this scene where it's like, you can really see that they were pushing for something like, we got to make this cool. We got to make this interesting. And then they started this conversation where Madfrog is driving a car and he's like, after competing for so many years at a high level, it just feels that I can see things happen in real life quicker than they are. Like, I look around and I already know that this car is going there, and he's like just driving on the highway, basically saying that like it might go fast for other people, but it doesn't go for him because he's got a very fast brain because he plays high level Warcraft. And I thought it was like, I kind of get what he meant, but it was like the most random thing ever. He's like, I got really good at predicting traffic and I'm just fast in real life. But yeah, maybe that's how things can translate. I don't know if you guys have a similar or better story.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say that's going to the grocery store. It's so easy to find shit. Like, I don't know. I think if there's anything that I've gotten from scanning the mini map and looking around my screen for 10 years constantly, it's that my eyes never stop moving. I'm walking down the aisle. I'm like, okay, there's a very specific. Okay, I need Crazy Richards, stir. Has to be extra crunchy peanut butter. I can walk through the whole aisle. I can find it in less than like 15 seconds. I just look up and down the aisle and I see it. I laser focus in on it. Finding things has never been easier since I started playing StarCraft. There you
Are
go.
you better at scanning things as well, Nate?
Yes. Actually, no. It never reads the label
every time.
It never reads the label, of course, but you know, I try.
I have
That's
a kind
funny.
of serious answer actually, because I think it actually has. I don't think it's like the fact that I'm good at StarCraft that translates to other areas in life. It's the fact that I got good at StarCraft. Like, I not ironically call things build orders all the time. Like, well, here's the build order and how do you drive a car? You know, like first you check your mirrors, then you back, put it in reverse, and then you back up, right? Like, I actually think the process of learning, no matter what you learn, can be something that can be applied to everything else. And for some people, it happens a lot more naturally with video games. So I've actually contributed a lot of the way that I learn other things to StarCraft.
That's so funny. It reminds me of a Hotbait interview with one of the Korean players. He's like asking him if he wants to like go to a club with him or something like that. And Hotbait's like, yeah, like you and me, like 2v2 versus girls, like go. And he's like he's like, what's your move? Like, you meet a girl, like, what's your move? And he's like, move? What's move? And he's like, your build. Yeah, what's your build order? What's your build order against girls? And he's like, oh, I don't know. Like, so
I've heard
reminds
that.
me of
I've said that. It's like, here's the build order if I'm going to flirt with that guy.
Yeah.
It's
No,
hilarious.
I think, obviously on a serious man, I definitely do think there's a lot of things that you can take from being good in StarCraft and apply it to real life. But I think the work ethic is honestly, I think, the thing that carries over most for me on a more serious manner. Like, it took a lot of time and effort to get good in StarCraft 2. And, once you've done that, you're like, I can push myself. I can push myself to a goal and I can accomplish what I set out as a goal to be. And I think that will give you a good attitude to start other endeavors and adventures in your life. So I think all of that definitely does apply. Zombie Grub Cats, good?
They're all
You
good.
call me
Nate.
cats?
What?
Just call me cats.
No, I'm asking if Zombie Grub her cats are all good.
Yeah.
'cause-
Oh,
Part of the question.
I did not even know that was a fucking part of the question. I thought you were like going around because I didn't get to give like an actual answer. I thought you were sorry, my bad. Oh my god. Can I say
That's
something
okay.
more about the other thing though?
Oh, yeah. I mean, go ahead.
Okay, but you can talk about the cats first. Go ahead. What about your cats, Zombie? Good.
No, they're fine. They're good. I give the thumbs up.
Perfect. Sorry. No, but yeah, I think the help that StarCraft gave is actually pretty big too. I think like the whole work ethic thing was really like Roddy said is really important. I think, but StarCraft even just like kind of taught me how to learn things. Like I did not even know how to like be self-critical of like anything I did before I learned how to play StarCraft and like like watch replays and just like learn that like everything that I do is like my mistake. I can't really blame anything or stuff like that. That actually was really, really huge for me, and I basically never really understood that before actually diving into StarCraft and learning how to be good at this game. It was like the first thing that I really decided to be good at. I was a drummer for my whole like childhood into middle and high school and stuff like that before I picked up StarCraft. That was like my other big thing that I did. And like I was actually really bad at improving because I only did what I wanted to do. And I didn't actually like look back at mistakes I would make and be like, okay, I need to fix this because it would feel bad to like go to a mistake, right? You like go to a mistake and you're like, no, that's a bad thing. I don't want to, I'm not a mistaking person. I don't make mistakes. Like I only do good things. So StarCraft actually helped me to actually know how to accept mistakes and stuff like that. So that's my big real answer to go with that.
I love it. And we already know Nate's dog is doing good because when I asked Nate about his life, he said the golden retriever is doing amazing. And I love those pictures, Nate. That does bring a smile to my face every time I see it. Do we have another one, Cobra?
We have 2 more.
2 more. Captain Happa, what are your favorite alternative formats, tourneys, competitions, things different and unique that are not the standard bracket, double, or limb, or GSL groups? Well, that's actually I really like the TI format, and that's basically what the Americans have for StarCraft 2. I like 2 big groups with an upper bracket and then a lower bracket. I actually just the other day I was thinking of some really fun formats, and I can't think of what I was thinking of right now. So, if anybody else wants to go first, what kind of formats do you guys enjoy?
I'll be honest. I actually really like the old school, just like huge open brackets.
Mhm.
I love like the old MLGs, the old DreamHacks. I loved that. Watching the different runs that people would make. I always remember that Anaheim White Raw run that he made from the lower. I think maybe it was the lower bracket, whatever. But like he had a super long run. He did like freaking or game after game, match after match for like so long into it, and he went to the final playoff day or whatever. It's like so fun to actually watch that. So I actually really like the big ones. Unfortunately, it's kind of hard to get that many players and to do that for a whole like 12 hours or whatever now. It's like crazy, but those are really good. And I actually like round robin. I know we were like kind of hating on like the DreamHack stuff today about, you know, the huge tournament or the huge group lengths and stuff like that. But I actually really like round robin. I think it is kind of just like similar idea where it's cool to see the different stories and just people play like a lot of games. I really don't like GSL style where it's just a player gets 2 matches and sometimes it's against or three matches most if they get bopped down and then it's against the same player again. It's kind of just boring basically. So that's I do like just seeing more games. I just like to see a bunch of stuff.
I'm pretty boring. I actually like all the default formats, but I guess I gotta add that with Gemini, like I really did love the idea of like, because that's definitely what we can't do for DreamHack. But I used to love like coming home from school, getting my snacks, getting my drinks, sitting down, and just like watching StarCraft for the entire weekend. Like that was my plan, and I think I would love doing that with DreamHack too, if it wasn't the fact that it was over 12 days instead of just the 3. So I do miss that a lot.
Nate, all good?
Yeah, I don't think I'm creative enough on the tournament format area to have anything really interesting to add. I like variety, but I'm not an expert on tournament formats. It's something that I probably need to read up on more. But it seems like we've kind of had the same stuff for a really long time. So I'm just kind of like, Roddy or somebody will think of something more clever than me.
I mean, I gotta say, I really think the traditional GSL format is the most boring, where it's like 8 groups and then 2 people advance. I honestly think that's the most boring. And I know that they even use it at the World Cup of Soccer or something, for instance, where it's like 2 teams advance. But I just think there are so many cooler and more fun ways to do stuff. I think back of some of the Red Bull tournaments we used to have, Nate, where players have lives and then you can actually challenge another player. So you're kind of dropping the gauntlet immediately and it becomes a bit personal, right? Because you both play with a tournament life on the line. I definitely think there's a lot of room for creativity. I do not hate big brackets either, but then it does start feeling like an open cup a little bit. Like if it's offline, it's epic, but if it's online, it's just another open cup. I think there's some cool ways to be creative. I'm actually really sad that we never had like a proper big league. Like the one thing that I was talking about when it comes to the DreamHack format is that I wish instead of 32 players, we would have 2 divisions in Europe, Code S, Code A kind of style, and 2 groups of 8, and then you would have the Premier League with the 16 highest ranked players in Europe, and then you have the Championship with the number 17 till 32. I really think that would make for awesome and competitive matches and way more top matches. And then the guys that are good, but not as good as the top guys, they will have very good games against other people around their level. So I think that'd be awesome. And I'd love to do something like that. But yeah, thank you for your question. And that means we have our final question of the day. And I can finally let you guys go because it's been over 3 hours already. And that is too long for a podcast or, well, unless you're Joe Rogan, I guess. But we are not Joe Rogan yet. We're on our way, though. Final question by Alexander. Roddy, I love the video posted to the top of the Twitter account of Africa with yourself, Maynard, Tasteless, and Tosses. How does it have only 18,000 views? I believe it's been uploaded to YouTube as well and it's been shared elsewhere. It is so funny. Do you all have a Tasteless story? I do think we all have a tasteless story, and I do really, yeah, I love that clip. It was incredibly funny. We were all in a good mood, and I saw an opportunity to make fun of Nick, and Nick loved it. He's like, "Oh yes, that's me," and it was about Castle Park instead. It is definitely a good video. Gemini, do you have a good tasteless story?
I mean, he's just so funny. Like, I can't even. It's so hard to think of certain ones because he'll just say certain things that just throw me off the fucking earth. Like, it's so fucking funny. But I mean, I won't share like a super funny one or anything. But I think just the ones that maybe don't get shared too much is just like he's actually just a nice, awesome guy. Like when I first came out here, like, you know, we would go like, you know, drinking just a little bit sometimes, and like he's very like adamant about like making sure that like you're just kind of good to go, like, you know, at the end of the night, like just making sure you're getting home like safe and stuff like that. Really like good about that. I don't know if that was just like me because I was kind of like new coming out here and stuff like that, but I appreciate that kind of just, you know, taking under the wing a little bit kind of a deal, especially since I was new in a different country and stuff like that. So I just appreciate that from him personally.
Very wholesome. Nick, the caring godfather of esports. Nathanias, any good Nick stories?
I don't think yeah. Well, none of my favorite Nick stories are things that I think I can comfortably say on air. But one of when I think of
about it.
when I think of sanitized fun stories with Tasteless, I miss those days when we would go to BlizzCon and at least somebody's on the club level at that hotel, and we'd all just go to that room in like the middle of the night, and Nick would have that who would just be like, "Guys, I got the 24 pack. Okay, tomorrow's just rehearsals. It doesn't fucking matter. We're just gonna hang out." And we just we all just go up and we sit out on the patio and we're having drinks and we're just shooting the shit, and it's just everybody, you know, and they've got like a couple of like the random free snacks. Like, yeah, I'm not paying a hotel bar. No. We're not doing that. This cost me $7. Those, yeah. But Nick was always the
you
one.
can hear
he was
so well.
He's the guy on top of it, you know. As much as he's like the cavalier, people are like, "Oh, Nick's not the guy that's making plans or organized." Like, no. It's very important for him that we did this every year because it was like our chill.
Yeah, no, he really cares about that. That's very sweet, actually. Like, this is not just a let's drink and we want to drink. No, for Nick, this is a very important moment. Like, Todd really cares if we can all have a dinner together. Like, that's the most important thing in Todd's world. Nick just wants to make sure that we're all comfortable and we all have a beer in our hand, and then he feels good. No, that is actually a real thing.
Those are things I think about all the time.
That's very funny, Nate. I love it. Zombie Gruff?
Yeah, I can't think of any like stream safe, like really, really funny stories, but I guess echoing what Gemini was talking about, he's actually he's very nice. He's definitely got like that big brother kind of cavalier optimism, you know, don't give a shit if you don't have to. That's really just nice to hang around. And like my mom came to Korea, and he actually usually doesn't really like, you know, want to hang out with, you know, people he doesn't know. He wants to just kind of relax and chill after a big broadcast, but he took the time to actually hang out with my mom at a 7-Eleven at like midnight. Me, my mom, Artosis, Tasteless. Gemini, were you there? Maybe it was someone else too. Yeah, and yeah, he just like talked to her for like an hour and a half or something. It was one of her favorite moments from the whole trip. And just in general, he like helped me find a place when I was in Korea without any, you know, he didn't have to. He just was like, "Oh, it's StarCraft 2 commentator. You're probably really cool," and then really helped me out. And so I think he's a very, very cool guy. But all of his really funny moments are
I'm not super safe, and he doesn't like it when we share them either.
Yeah,
Okay?
He's just like I can't replicate it, you know, like I can't do Nate's taste voice. So even if I did have a funny sanitized story, it wouldn't be funny to talk about it on air. Or just be like, I guess that was kind of funny.
Yeah, I mean, some people are confused about 7-Eleven. What's that to do at a 7-Eleven? There is absolutely nothing to do at a 7-Eleven, guys. But whenever you go to Korea, there is Tasteless, and he will find a way to get a couple of plastic chairs and a plastic table outside of a 7-Eleven, and then you just sit down and you drink beer with Tasteless and you talk. And he can do that from 11 p.m. till 4 a.m. And then
Yeah.
when he goes home, he walks inside, and you're like, is he gonna grab a bottle of water? No, he's grabbing a six-pack for the way home. That's just Tasteless. He loves sitting down with people, and he loves having a cheeky one.
To say as well though, that's actually like a Korean thing in general. Like Koreans just do that. Like sitting outside a 7-Eleven at night at midnight or whatever is literally the most Korean thing ever. Like everyone fucking does that. Like when
To be
when
fair-
COVID wasn't around, it's
Yeah.
like you just see people doing that all the time. It's like it sounds like the most degen thing ever. Like it sounds so funny,
kinda
but
is.
it's
It kinda
so
is.
normal. It kind of is, but it's not out here, which is amazing. It's actually really fun. Like I will just like there's a convenience store right across. Literally, I can see it across my street. I will just walk down there, like with me and my coworker, and we will just sit there and just like for however long. It's actually so fun. It's great.
Yeah, no, it is fun, and what is cool is that obviously Seoul is a incredibly big city with a crap ton of people. That you always see something as well. It's not like you just sit in a dark alley at the 7-Eleven on a plastic chair.
Yeah.
It's like no, you still see stuff happening. You see cars drive by, you see people walk by, you hear some stuff, and then you just sit there. And at first, I was like, really, Nick, can we go somewhere else? But then I have to admit, the 7-Eleven kind of grew on me, and it's a pretty fun little random
nice
time.
vibe.
Yeah, it is. It's something
It's
that
just-
really grows on you.
It's not worth going to bars in Korea, is the thing. Like, I guess we would like
Rude.
hang out like at a bar or like a sports, type of bar like we do in Sweden, right? But in Korea, I feel like there's not really a good equivalent, and otherwise you're just paying like way too much money for mixed drinks when you can buy soju for $1.50 and snacks and even ramen because they just let you make the food in the 7-Eleven. So it's just
awesome.
so much easier.
Dude, convenience stores in
We
Asia
all
are-
sound really poor right
Oh,
now,
it's like-
guys. It's like we don't want to go to the bar. We can buy ramen. They have a microwave, okay? You can literally borrow the fucking microwave.
It's true. It's so
I
good.
still
You
like
have
to
so
go
many
to
It's
choices.
so
restaurants, guys.
amazing, though. It's simple.
You don't have to
things
talk
about
to
it.
anybody. It's awesome.
I don't know. I'm not sure if I really get on board with the food thing, but the drinking outside of 7-Eleven, that's pretty fun. All right, guys, that is going to do it. Massive shout out, of course, to everyone that supports the Pylon Show over at Patreon. One more time, if you do want to do that, if you want to make sure the Pylon Show stays a thing, take a look at it. There is a button underneath my stream, and obviously you can just go to thepylonshow.com as well. There's a Patreon badge there too. If you can miss it, we would really appreciate it. Cobra in particular, ain't that right, Cobra? Where are you right now? North Carolina? Are you still alive?
Are you in the
Barely.
airplane?
I'm gonna take a very long nap after this. I'm still here.
Okay.
I love
well,
you.
then
I
we
love how you can tell that he needs a nap.
yeah. Then we're definitely gonna wrap it up. But yeah, big shout out, of course, to our big supporters. You guys saw them on the screen there, Cody Furious, and etc. etc. Couldn't do it without you. And that means that it's goodbye for us. Gemini, your Twitch account is Gemini SC2. You do cool stuff, StarCraft 2 related every now and then. You have a Twitter account as well. Do you want to promote that? And do you have anything else to say about today's episode?
Sure. Yeah. So, I mean, thanks for having me on again, Cobra and everyone. It's kind of last minute, but thank you for inviting me. It's always fun to just talk and shoot the shit about StarCraft. But yeah, Gemini SC2 is my Twitch. I stream. I'm trying to stream a little bit more often than I've been recently. Just GM Korean ladder and just Protoss, just whatever anything Protoss related. If you ever need advice about stuff, you can always pop in chat. It's like talking and helping out people about strategies and stuff like that. I used to do a bunch of build order guides and stuff like that, but I just don't have the time to do it as much anymore. But I want to try to do like a couple of those videos, like I was saying, doing like very kind of short, quick, to the point, like kind of advice videos and stuff like that. Mostly like mechanics related stuff because I feel like that doesn't get talked about too much. So my YouTube is Gemini_19. I have the greatest social media ever, where every single Twitter or every single website has a different name of some sort of something with Gemini and 19 in it. So Gemini19 on Twitter, Gemini_19 on YouTube, and Gemini SC2 on Twitch. It's really easy to remember. Haha.
Absolutely. I could definitely repeat you right now. Thank you very much, mate, for being on the show today. We really appreciate it, guys. Check him out. Next up, we are already looking at the beautiful Twitter. I believe, yes, it is Twitter, of Zombie Grub. Zombie Grub, did you have fun on the Pylon Show today? Where can we find you? And is there anything else that you still want to get off your chest that you didn't have the opportunity to say yet?
No, I can't think of any rants right now, but I had a very fun time on the Pylon Show. I mean, maybe like in 2 hours on my stream, I'll be ranting about something else. It's a matter of time.
I'll be there.
Um,
I'll argue with you, Zombie Grub.
I ranted all last night about like Overwatch League and esports and Blizzard and whatnot. We were checking out like all the rumors that are being posted on like 4chan and shit about Blizzard. Anyways, wonderful time on the Pylon Show. You can follow me at Zombie Grub on Twitch and YouTube, and ZGGaming on Twitter. And I'll be streaming pretty much like right after the end of this show. So I'll be cheesing up the ladder and having some fun. Maybe drink a little wine as well for my wine and cheese. And that's it. Thank you.
That sounds lovely. I would love to have some wine and cheese as well. Thank you so much, Zombie Grub, for joining us today. Last but not least, Nady Poo. Nady Poo, you're going live real soon. I know that. Nathanias on Twitter, Nathanias on Twitch, or just Nathanias on Twitch, right?
Yeah, I've got just Nathanias, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube. Yeah, I've been getting back into playing a little bit of StarCraft. I'm trying to do it like 2 days a week because I really want to make sure that when I'm playing, I'm enjoying myself and having fun, and not really thinking too much about things that bother me. So I'll be doing that probably Friday. Today, tomorrow, I'm going to be working on my league grind. I'll be streaming some League of Legends today, playing some mid, playing some support, and trying to apply that learning process thing that we talk about. That's kind of been my goal, improving at that. And other than that, just chilling. And maybe I'll be at PAX. I have no idea. But yeah, just streaming, memeing, and posting pictures of my dog everywhere. At least once a day.
When is PAX?
I think it's supposed to be a little bit over like what I was hearing would be like somewhere like the 4th to the 7th that weekend, I think. I wasn't even sure that it was still happening when they brought it back, but someone contacted me about doing some anime fighting game, and I'm like, well, that's gonna help pay for the wedding, so yeah, I'm not gonna say no. You gotta do what you gotta do.
Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it. I think it was
Guys,
pretty
go follow
fun.
RotterdaM. He never shouts himself out on Twitter. RotterdaM 08.
No, because no, Cobra. No, if you guys want to follow the Twitch channel, I would really appreciate that. I'll be live later today. I'll probably be live tomorrow and the next day as well. We just kind of stream StarCraft, and that's all we do. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this edition of the Pylon Show. And of course, you guys are always allowed to agree, disagree with stuff, and that's okay. Don't be a total dick about it. Just find a way to communicate with something with either me or any of the other guests that you didn't agree with. They all stream. They all have social media. They all have a Discord. You can be nice, guys. You don't need to go somewhere else and be like XYZ. Just have a little conversation about it. We're all very normal people. We can have different opinions. The TLDR is be sweet to each other. And thank you for watching. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
And we're clear.